everybody. It's finally here. You've been waiting for this, dude. This was the big interview I thought that was going to happen last week. But that turned out to be Tim Pool. No one gives a fuck about the Tim Pool. Nick Fuentes. Actually, it would be interesting to see Nick Fuentes on Tim Pool. But out of nowhere, today, Tucker Carlson puts out an episode interviewing Nick Fuentes. And I've skimmed through it a little bit. I think there's going to be people that are going to be a little disappointed in it. I think we were expecting more fireworks. I definitely was. More accusations, more defense of accusations, you know, like the Fed stuff, the stuff about Nick's, Tucker's dad. Maybe I missed it, but it doesn't even seem like they talked about that once. It seems like there's a little bit of mention about, you know, Tucker's accusations of Nick being a Fed. But I wanted to see Tucker defend the accusations about his father working for the CIA, being a high-level CIA. I don't think they even brought that up. Let's get to it. We're going to react to a couple little spots that I thought were interesting from that episode today. We're also going to be going over the Discord leaks from Tyler Robinson with his weird boyfriend, Lance. What's the boyfriend's name? Lance Briggs or some shit like that. If I'm getting it wrong, it'll get mentioned later what his name is. But the trans male or trans female furry. That dude was fucking insane. We're gonna watch a Turkey Tom. We're gonna watch some segments from a Turkey Tom video. I think he does a good job talking about it, kind of explaining how actually crazy. And it seems like Tyler Robinson was actually the not crazy one. His boyfriend was the crazy one. Weird. We got some stuff from Tommy. Tommy Boy's now at PSU University, Portland State University.
Chatted $1.43. Have a coffee on me, so good to see y'all.
Thank you, Holden Dan Sock. He got assaulted at Portland State University. So it looks like Tommy Boy's career of triggering the libs is not over. It's some funny clips from there. A lot of cool stuff. A lot of cool stuff to go over today. So how's everybody doing? Let me refresh this so I can see the damn chat. Come on. Try again. There we go. All right. Yep. How's everybody doing? That Rabbit's Dynamite. What's up, brother? Donnie Brook. Go Jays. Yeah, I'm rooting for the Jays too, man. I'm always rooting against the Dodgers. Fuck the Dodgers. How do you organize all this info? Every day is impressive. I just basically surf the internet and then bookmark things I want to talk about. It is, you know, there's a lot of time involved, but it's just what I would be doing anyway, which is surfing the internet and going, oh, this is interesting. Let's talk about this. How you doing, Jack Mojo? Hello, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. Smash the thumbs up. Let's help get this going. Links are in the description if you want to support the channel or join the Discord. And my boy Dan and Hole and Dan Sock just did, you can also send me super chats if you want to add to the dialogue here or ask me a question, anything like that. So let's get to this. We're going to get right to the Nick Fuentes Tucker Carlson interview. And let's just going to react to this. Oh, hopefully I don't. There we go. Sorry. Hit the wrong thing there. I'm a little rusty today, guys. I took a day off. Every time I take a day off, I get rusty. So I was not expecting this to happen. I thought like, okay, this is probably never going to happen. But yeah, boom, today, all of a sudden, it gets posted. And I'm like, okay, let's check this out. So I went ahead and jumped ahead. I'll share the link as well if you want to go watch the full thing. We're not going to watch it all, obviously. But we're going to watch a few segments from it that I thought were pretty entertaining.
So here's my question. So I look at the landscape now and the people I see as, you know, I'll narrow it down to foreign policy. Okay. Who is effectively opposing neocon?
Sorry, guys. Here's the link in the chat. So if you're here and you're complaining about me interrupting, go watch the actual full video without me interrupting. Okay.
Conservative foreign policy, which has been the dominant foreign policy of the United States for my entire life, which has been so destructive, I think, and I've seen it. Who are the voices who are sincere in their opposition to that and who have some ability to change the country's orientation on foreign policy? And those would include Marjorie Taylor Greene, J.D. Vance, Matt Gaetz, me. But you've attacked all of those people.
Yeah.
why would you, and almost Joe Kent, those strike me as someone who's really interested in this topic. I'm not that interested in the Jews, but I'm very interested in the foreign policy question. Those seem like the most sincere people. Those seem like the only hope of the country to get away from this destructive, really self-destructive cycle. Why attack them?
Well, in short, they attacked me first.
Yeah, but like, who cares?
Well, let's take Joe Kent.
I mean, you attack me constantly.
Well,
and I'm like, I don't really give a shit. I want to meet the guy.
You attacked me first, too.
No.
A little background for some of you who haven't followed what went down a month or two ago. Tucker accused Nick of being a Fed because he attacked Joe Kent, who was an American First politician who ended up losing because Nick withdrew his support and started attacking him. Okay? That's where a lot of the accusations towards Nick being a Fed. I mean, there's a lot here that they don't go into that I've gone into in previous episodes that are why people accuse Nick Fuentes of being a Fed. But this is one of the reasons Tucker accused him of being a Fed.
No, but what I'm saying is I'm not whining about it. Sure. I'm just saying, like, so, you know what I mean?
Well, I don't say so because, like, take Joe Kent, for instance. I supported Joe Kent and I talked to Joe Kent. I got introduced to him by Matt Brainerd. Matt Brainerd went to my conference in 2021. He bought a table.
Was he his campaign manager?
He was.
Okay.
Or he was a consultant, but he was on the campaign. Yeah. And so I met Matt Brainerd. He liked me a lot. He loved my conference in February 21, which he bought a table at for his organization, Look Ahead America. And in 2021, and by we, I mean my nonprofit and myself and my team, we wanted to support America First candidates in the midterms. Like you said, authentic opponents.
Me too.
Yeah. And
that's how I found Joe Kent.
Yes. And so I met a lot of the people in that sort of scene, like Ryan Gerdusky, I know is very supportive of Joe Kent, and other people that are more private, I don't want to name, but they put me on, not just to Joe Kent, but Patrick Witt in Georgia, Gibbs in Michigan, a lot of different people. And Joe Kent was one of them. And I had a phone call with Joe Kent. And I told him, I had my assistant on the phone too, who's Jewish, by the way, just because I want you to know I'm cool like that. You know, I don't judge. But so I'm on the phone with Joe and I said, look, we support you and we want to do everything we can to help you. We want to have my followers knock on doors for you. We want to boost your social media. Anything that you need, we want to help you. I said, and we don't even want to be publicly associated. I said, because we know that might hurt you. I said, the only thing that we ask in return is you can't disavow me if the media asks. And you can say whatever you need to say, but you can't disavow.
See, I don't know. To me, that's like, of course you're going to be disavowed. Okay, the thing you're not going to see on this interview is all the clips of Nick talking about how much he loves Hitler, sounding like the most fucking racist guy ever, right? Him asking his audience to make a pledge to like kill R-word, all that for him, which I'm sure it's just a joke, guys. It's comedy. But when you're a politician and like it really comes time to like pull off those centrist voters who any kind of hint or smell of like racism or anti-Semitism puts them off, politicians are going to have to disavow, especially when if those clips start surfacing and side by side, like, oh, you support this guy who loves Hitler, who talks about organized Jewry, and like that's why a lot of people think Nick's a Fed, because it's like he discredits all the legitimate criticisms. So if he really cared about America First, Nick should be like, disavow me. I don't care. I know why you're doing it. Do it. It's more important you as an America First candidate can actually win. And we know in order for you to win, there's going to come a point where you need to disavow all these things I said. Now, maybe he could have handled it better and just not answered the question. That probably would have been the smart thing to do if you're Joe Kent, just to be like, I'm not answering that question. He has nothing to do with me. Next question. But yeah, there's a reason. And it should be already obvious that this is going to happen anytime Nick is close to a certain politician or people know that he's throwing his weight behind him.
And he said, yeah, I totally agree with you, because if we start disavowing each other, then we're just going to eat each other alive and the left wins. We're in agreement. And a couple months later, Joe tweeted in support of me because I had been banned on all social media. I was on the no-fly list. So he said something on Twitter like, you know, Nick Fuentes shouldn't be banned. He should not be censored. A month after that, I put out on Twitter, I said, Joe Kent is one of the most impressive America First candidates that's running in 22. Well, fast.
But you care more about your fucking ego and whether he disavows you or not than whether or not that impressive candidate actually wins, which to me is like a little bit like, who are you looking after here? Do you care about America and actually getting America First candidates, or like what options we have, whoever is the most closest to America First, or do you care about your ego and being disavowed? Like, who gives a fuck?
Forward a whole year later, I do my annual conference, AFPAC, in February 22. Marjorie Taylor Greene attends. It's we had 1,200 people, and it got a lot of media attention. And I'm driving home, because I'm on the no-fly list at this time. I'm driving home from Florida.
Can I ask you to pause? By no-fly list, you mean not extra scrutiny, but like not allowed to fly in airplanes in the United States?
Not allowed to fly, yes.
How old were you?
I was 23.
Did you have any felony convictions?
No.
Okay. I wasn't even aware that could happen.
There's a lot of people that dispute whether he was actually on a no-fly list or whether he got banned from specific airlines because he was harassing stewardess, or he said some shit that they took as threatening a stewardess. I don't know which one's real here, so I'll just say there are disputes to that. That would have been nice if Tucker would have brought up.
How long were you not allowed to fly in airplanes in the United States?
1 year.
It's really crazy.
Yeah, it was.
Sorry, I just want to get that out there.
No, yeah, it's brutal.
And you confirm that you were not allowed to fly in airplanes?
Yes,
period.
I have the letter from the TSA, yeah. I was on the do not board list.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's crazy. But so anyway, so I'm driving home from Florida after my conference, and I get people start texting me. Joe Ken is on Twitter, and he says, I condemn Nick Fuentes, especially his views on Israel. That's the tweet. And I texted Joe.
You can see he's about to cry.
And I said, seriously?
Just, you can see it, like his feelings were hurt so bad. His feelings were like, oh no, dude, I think he cares more about his feelings being hurt than whether or not the candidate that's the most America First gets elected.
And he texts me back and he says, we win by addition, not subtraction. I go, well, you just subtracted me out of the movement. I said, because I don't support you anymore. He goes back for seconds.
Like a scorned girlfriend.
He goes on Twitter and says, Nick Fuentes and his focus on race and religion does not fit with my message of inclusive populism. Inclusive populism. That doesn't sound like authentic America First. That sounds like bullshit to me. And I don't know. I know he's your friend, but I don't know him that well. And
right.
I'm not on the team.
Well, so my read on Joe Kent was he's totally sincere. He, like me, has always been committed to separating out like foreign policy views from ethnicity, not because, I mean, obviously I'm denounced as an anti-Semite every day.
Jack Mojo says, it's a betrayal, bro. Dude, do you think at the end of the day, the left doesn't do this? Do you think when Kamala goes out there and they go, you condemn Antifa, right? And she's like, yeah, of course I condemn Antifa. Do you think Antifa goes, oh, we don't support you anymore? They're like, no, of course, it's politics. She's got to say that. But at the end of the day, after she's elected, guess, who's going to get to have a voice in her administration? Like, bro, you got to see the big picture, the game that's being played. But like, oh, he's all in his fifis. My little fifis got hurt.
Mm-hmm. So I don't really care what ADL thinks of me, but my Christian faith tells me that there's no such thing as blood guilt. And virtue or sin is not inherited. It's not a feature of DNA. So every person must be assessed individually as God assesses each person individually. And that's like a foundational view. So I always thought it's great to criticize and it's question like our relationship with Israel because it's insane and it hurts us. We get nothing out of it. I completely agree with you there. But the second you're like, well, actually it's the Jews. First of all, it's against my Christian faith. Like, I just don't believe that and I never will, period. And second, then it becomes a way to discredit. That's when I was like, this guy's a Fed. Mm-hmm. I was totally convinced you were a Fed because I was like, here he's bear hugging like the one sincere guy who lost his wife in Syria thanks to the fucking crazy wars, neocon wars. And he's discredited. He's doing the David Duke. Like David Duke would always, every time I rolled out a new show, he would issue an endorsement of the show. I've never met the guy, What's that? Well, it's the feds. Obviously, he's trying to destroy me by association. Whatever. You see the point?
Yeah, but so let me ask you this. So if I'm supporting Joe Kent, I'm David Duke bear hugging. If I attack Joe Kent, I'm attacking the only sincere America First
Look,
voices.
I get it. I mean, I do get it. And I just want to say I love Joe Kent. Again, having been denounced by a lot of people I know what that feels like.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely am sympathetic to that.
Yeah.
I was denounced by someone I like last night. I hurt my feelings. You know what I mean? Whatever. I'm not even going to say what her name is, but I helped her. I liked her. You know, it's like, why are you denouncing me? Why didn't you call me?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I get that.
I wonder who that is. Any guesses? Candace Owens, maybe?
I guess the two but then on the other hand, like one of my favorite people in the world is Glenn Greenwald.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love Glenn.
Ah, what a good man. Glenn must have spent like 10 years attacking me full time. Tucker Carlson is da-da-da-da-da. And some of his criticism was correct, actually. You know, tool of the neocons, endorsing these fucking wars. Like, he was right. But he really hated me. And then when we started to agree on stuff, I was like, you know what? It's not about me. I don't care. Like, I don't want personal pique or my hurt feelings to govern my behavior. I guess that's what I'm saying. I'm not lecturing you. I get it. But
or if you truly care about America First, you would put your feelings aside and go, you know what? It's most important that we elect America First candidates. And if an American First candidate needs to fucking disown me because of the stupid shit I've said in the past, in order to pull off that last 1 to 2% of people in the middle that you need to actually be put over the top, then I'll just let it go because I understand the big picture. And the big picture is actual America First candidates winning and not these crazy woke fucking leftists, dude. But, you know, feelings matter more, I guess.
I feel like, okay, he pissed you off. It's in a campaign. He's got 19 consultants. This kid's a Nazi. Be careful of him. Like, I don't know. Let it go.
Well, and I totally agree with you, by the way. And that's why I don't take it personally at all. Like, and I like you. I've said very positive things about you on my show as well. I
don't care.
And I know, but I mean to say that my goal is America First.
Right.
It's not about me. It's not about my personality. It's about winning for America, you know, and by winning, I mean, we want to see our vision realized. But with Joe, for me, it was very specific that he said inclusive populism. And I really...
Some of you are retarded. You'd literally let a Mom Donnie win before voting for someone, you know, based on, oh, he doesn't hate Israel enough. Oh, he doesn't call out the Jews enough. So fuck him. Mom Donnie can win. Good job, retards. That's going to be great.
Really didn't like that because to me, there were a lot of similar phrases at this time, multiracial, working class, populism, this kind of stuff. And I said, you know, on some level, we do need to be exclusive, not inclusive. We do need to be right wing. We do need to be Christian. We do, on some level, need to be pro-white, not to the exclusion of everybody else, but recognizing that white people have a special heritage here as Americans. And so the reason I opposed him in 22 was not because I was mad, but it was to say America First cannot backslide into this kind of inclusive populism message, which I perceive to be more like GOP slop. And I'll tell you, when he ran...
Bro, it's about winning elections. You need to have some populism to win an election, right? You can't play to just like one crowd. You have to play to the 50% that you need to actually get elected. Yeah, don't have a message that actually gets people to vote for you from like all sides. Because you can't win just with one side. You have to get people from the middle. You got to get the people that kind of lean both ways, who can either vote left or vote right sometimes. And to get them, yeah, you kind of need a populist message. And, you know, saying, hey, I disavow or I condemn Nick Fuentes because of all the stupid shit you fucking said is kind of a necessity. And to think that politicians that need to win over the centrist voter who isn't all red-pilled on Israel, sorry, you still need to win those voters as well. And who doesn't like identity politics, who doesn't like anti-Semitism, who doesn't like racism, as lame as that may seem to you, we still need them to vote for us in order to win. It's just unrealistic, dude. It's an unrealistic view that like, oh, I can go on and talk about how much I love Hitler and how based Hitler is and how we need to save the white race. And then when people go, oh, this guy who sounds exactly like a white supremacist, Nazi-loving Hitler guy, based on the clips, if you said that, are you out of context? I was joking, whatever. It doesn't matter. At a certain point, people have to disavow that. When it comes time to actually win, the usually near the end of a race, when it's like the only people left that you have to win over are the centrists, are the people, the swing voter, the independent voter, who's not going to go for that shit. Understand the game that's being played, please. Okay, and get your feelings out of it.
And again, in 24, I did not oppose him. And I would have supported him if he had reached out or something like that. Because for me, it was very political and professional. I wanted to impose a cost. If you disavow someone because they criticize Israel, if you disavow someone for talking about white people and Christianity, I said, we can't let that slide.
Yeah, it's not that you talked about that, right? Like the way you put it now, it sounds like, oh, all I did was just say like, I don't want to fight any more wars for Israel. And I don't like how much influence Israel has. No, dude, you went way beyond that. Okay. And that's why. But does it matter? I don't know. Because of course now even Tucker Carlson is an anti-Semite, blah, 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 by all the neocons. So he probably still would have got that label, but at least it wouldn't land as hard if if it was just accusations and not a ton of fucking clips, which I'm not going to play the clips again. I don't hate Nick. Everybody thinks I'm just a Nick hater. No, I like Nick. I like a lot what he says, but I have the same concerns that Tucker has, that he's gone a little too hard on his show, and he's gotten to the area where it's like, it can be portrayed as being anti-Semitic and racist and white supremacist, and that's his own doing, right? And it was, fun, edgy. Everybody had a good laugh. Well, now those clips exist, and now you're toxic to a political movement when it's time to actually pull off the swing voter, the independent voter. But I guess the feelings, your feelings are all that matter. And he disavowed me. How dare he?
Because. And you understand why he did it. Like, I don't, on some level, I don't hold it against him in the sense.
Yeah, but then you had all your followers attack him, and he lost by a tiny amount, which a lot of people, I don't know if it's correct or not, but a lot of people give you credit for him losing. So if you weren't so upset, then why'd you flip everything on him and cause him to lose? And cause instead some fucking woke piece of shit to get into office rather than another America First. He may not be perfect America First. He may not be the perfect ideal of what you consider to be America First, but he's not Mom Donnie. He's not AOC. Sometimes you take what you can fucking get.
It's that there is such a strong incentive. It's easy to say, I disavow all these crazy Christians and all these crazy white nationalists, because it buys you wiggle room with people that are attacking you. It's like easy to throw them under the bus and say, right, I'm one of the good guys. And so I said, it's too easy. We need to push in the other direction and say, you should feel less comfortable saying that people shouldn't talk about their race and religion. Maybe you'll think twice next time. And so I did it for a very specific reason. And
I get that. What I do think is bad, just objectively bad and destructive, is the all Jews are guilty or all anybody is guilty of anything, because that's just like not true. And we don't believe that as Christians. My hero in life is Paul. I guess you call him Saint Paul. Saul of Tarsus.
I'm very sketched out by Saul of Tarsus. I don't know, man. I told you guys I'm not a true believer, and when I read the story of Saul from Tarsus, who became Paul, who the only apostle who never actually met Jesus, he had a vision of Jesus on his way to Damascus, who was before that going around murdering Christians. I'm very sketched out by Paul, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
A Pharisee,
yeah,
and meets Jesus and becomes this just incredible man, incredibly brave, smart, loving, like everything you want to be as a man. He was Jew.
Yeah.
So and God did that to him. So it's like, you can't, I think that's and I don't think it's like mushy liberal bullshit, which I hate. Mm-hmm. And I hate all the language that you're describing. I get why it offends you, because it's code for, I don't really believe what I'm saying.
Right.
I have a PhD in the subject, so I know.
Yeah, Jack Mojo says Nick is different now. Yeah, since Nick has gone more mainstream, he's kind of sounding more like Tucker Carlson rather than old school Nick. I like Nick again. Nick's very smart. He could be very useful. He's got the brain for it. He could be very useful for America First. But the thing about the internet is like those clips don't go away. And anytime anybody's associated with them and the left wants to discredit them, the left's going to pull out those clips. So I wish he would have been a little smarter in his younger days to realize how much damage he was doing to the movement that he claims to care about.
But I also think there's like a true, not just principle, but like spiritual reality that we have to defend, which is God created every person as an individual, not as a group. No woman gave birth to a community. Like, we hate that kind of thinking,
Yes.
right? Collectivist thinking like that. That's identity politics. That's what Dave Rubin engages in. That's why Dave is like just a child. Like, you don't pay any attention to Dave because he's like shallow. But we're not going to be that, right? Or no?
No, I completely agree with you. And, you know, like, and not to be that guy and say that thing, but like, my best friend is a Jewish person.
No,
you know,
I
so
know,
like,
What? Did he really pull out that line? Well, you know, actually, I don't have any. I don't have a best. I do have like acquaintances who are Jewish, but I don't have any like close friends who are Jewish. Part of living in Texas, there's not a lot of Jewish people here. They don't like. I mean, especially where I mean, maybe Dallas or something. There's a lot of Jews, but yeah, that's funny. He pulled out that line. And yes, Nick does deserve redemption, but that doesn't mean he deserves to have political power. Right? Because he fucked up. He would probably be able to have political power if he didn't kind of fuck up and go for edgy boy. Let me say what's going to get me more super chats route. Because I think that's kind of what happened to Nick. Nick became a victim of getting banned from everything, which he should have never done. If he was never banned from everything, this probably wouldn't have happened. But because he got banned and he got isolated to this audience of, the misfits, the outcasts, he had to play to him, and he had to play things up, and he had to get real edgy, and you know, his audience loved it at the time. But it's wasn't a good long-term strategy for his political movement.
But here's my substantive disagreement, because as a Catholic, I could not agree more with you.
Yes.
In what you're saying. I love all people, even the ones that don't like us. We have to love them all, and we have to recognize that
We're required to.
Yes. And especially Aquinas says the Jews are a witness people. And so they actually have special protections under the law, according to Catholic philosophy. But I guess my substantive disagreement, which I've said on the show also, is the idea that neoconservatism and Israel has nothing to do with Jewishness, Jewish identity, the Jewish religion, because clearly the state of Israel and the neocons are deeply motivated by that ethnic identity, and their allegiance to Israel proceeds from that. You know, the plan of Greater Israel, the blood and soil nationalism of Israel, it stems from this ethno-religion, which is Judaism.
Well, this is, just BLM, the new version. This is identity politics. They're engaging in identity politics. I mean, that's just so obvious to me. But the problem in your response, I get what you're saying, but the problem in your response is it does not apply to every individual.
No, and I would never say that.
Okay. Well, I just think it's important to say that, not to kind of like dodge the accusations against you. My best friends are Jewish. Like, okay, I agree. Embarrassing, even though it's probably true. And it's true in my case, actually. But whatever. But because
Tucker's good at like little insults, but making them sound friendly. Because that was kind of like, that was lame that you just said, my best friend is Jewish. Like, come on. That's the lamest fucking, oh, I'm not anti-Semitic. My best friend's Jewish. You know, I mean, it is kind of true though, even though it's like kind of cringe. It is true. Like, you're not going to have, like, you're not going to be a racist and hate black people and your best friend's black, right? But, you know when you say that, how people take it. They're just like, oh, yeah, your best friend's Jewish. Okay, whatever.
it's just that principle that we're all judged as individuals by what we do, that our faith, the decisions that we make, the way we live our lives, and God will judge every one of us in that way. And that's how we're supposed to judge. Like, is that, I think that's true.
Yeah. And I totally agree. But I guess the disagreement is, you say identity politics like it's a bad thing. I think identity is a reality.
Identity is a reality. Absolutely. You just can't have a country of 350 million this diverse where it's just like warring ethnicities, because then it's Rwanda.
I do think that's what some people want. They want to somehow undo the melting pot that is America And that's gonna be fucking ugly if you want to try to do that. There's no way like to undo the melting pot. There's no way to go into the soup and fucking remove the ingredients that are already in the soup. Okay, so we have to figure it out. And getting rid of the identity politics is not just about our side, it's about both sides. It's about the left and the right. Stop playing this fucking racial division game. That's going to lead to a fucking race war in this country that nobody wants to see. Nobody that's sane or rational wants to see. So what this is a really good point Tucker's making.
Soon. And, the people with the most force just kill the others. So, like, you can't have that here. Right?
Yeah. But I would say specifically as it pertains to, you, I think, have said it's the neocons. And I think that neoconservatism, where does it arise from? It arises from Jewish leftists who were mugged by reality when they saw the surprise attack in the Yom Kippur War.
Yeah, that's a lot of it for sure. But then, like, how do you explain Mike Huckabee, Ted Cruz, and there are a lot like that, John Bolton. I mean, I've known them all, George W. Bush, like Karl Rove. I mean, all people I know personally who I've seen like be seized by this brain virus, and they're not Jewish. Most of them are self-described Christians, and then the Christian Zionists who are, well, Christian Zionists. Like, what is that?
Right.
And I can just say for myself, I dislike them more than anybody. Because like, what? Because it's Christian heresy, and I'm offended by that as a Christian. That's why. So I don't, like, why not? Like, I'm pissed at the neocons, very pissed. I've said that a million times. I've been mad since December of 2003 when I went to Iraq. And so, like, I went and asked straightforward questions to Ted Cruz, because that seemed like he was a sitting senator who's like serving for Israel by his own description. He seemed like a worthy target. I'm not going after MTG, who's like the most sincere like, why not go after Ted Cruz? I don't understand.
Well, again, with Marjorie, I was a friend of hers, and she spoke at my conference, and then the day after, she pretended like she didn't know me.
Oh, I wonder why, Nick. Is this a common theme with you and politicians? Oh, why would she do that, Nick? Maybe the same reason Joe Kent had to do that too? Maybe somebody started sending her clips from your fucking show, retard?
And that was in 2022.
But it's a continuum. Like you said yourself, you showed up in college, like one set of views, they evolve as you interact with reality, as the reality itself changes, as like you learn things, you grow, like whatever, people change.
Well, and look.
Errol Ward, you guys don't think this was a melting pot? You realize even if no black people came into the country, we were still a melting pot? We had Germans, we had every fucking nationality coming here. They all spoke different languages, and they had to figure out how to fucking become American. And then what we've done away with is the idea of identifying as Americans, because that's the solution to the problem with race, is getting everybody to just simply identify as Americans first. And to stop being obsessed like, oh, well, I'm black and my black identity is more important to me than my American identity, and I'm Indian American. No, everybody's got to fucking put that shit aside. Embrace the fact that you're an American first. We're all Americans, and skin color really shouldn't mean shit. And then, we got to incentivize people to actually become American and to stop. A lot of you are like East Coasters too, because I know if you go to the East Coast, you got Germantown and Jamaican Town, and you don't have that much of that in Texas. You have actual neighborhoods where you'll find everybody of all kinds. Now, you still have a little bit, but it's not like the East Coast, man. It's not, you don't have Germantown, Chinatown, and this town and that town. You don't have that. That's an East Coast thing. And also, they did studies, and the East Coast is also the most racist part of the United States. I don't know if you know that. People would tend to think it's the South. The South's the most racist. No, the people who hold the most racist beliefs tend to live in the Northeast.
Now that everyone agrees with me, I will graciously forgive them for being
But why
so
make
hostile.
it personal? Like, who cares?
It's not personal for me. Like with Marjorie, if she wanted to be aligned or whatever, I would totally be on board with her.
But where do you disagree with her?
I don't know, because I don't know what her new views are. She's really only come around on Israel this year, and I've been talking about this issue for 10 years. And
right, okay, all right, you win. But like,
no, but it's not like that. It's just it feels like BS to me that, and I said this on Twitter the other day, it's like I got treated like I didn't exist.
Right, I get it.
Canceled for 10 years for saying these things. And that's really where all this drama comes from. A time when there was this intense censorship and nobody was on board with this stuff. Like, again, Marjorie, she fired, one of my people was working in her office. She fired that guy because someone found out that a Groyper was working in her office. And, you know, that guy got his life ruined. And she pretended like she didn't know me and lied and said, I had no idea the conference I was speaking at. She knew exactly what it was. And that's fine. But now that she's on the same page, there's like this expectation like, okay, well, you know, why did you have a problem with her in the past? It's like, because she was on the other team in the past.
Yeah, well, so was everybody.
Yeah,
I mean,
so now
so were you.
Yeah,
I mean, so what? I mean, why not? It's got to be bigger than just like us.
One thing that makes this really hard to watch, you can't really see it here,
right? And it's not. I don't think. Well, I'll speak for myself. I don't feel like I'm at war with the neocons or Israel. It's much bigger than that. It's like you want to restore
the pause keeps
America,
but there's this big herpy right
to
here.
a place where.
Once I saw that herpy, it was so hard not to stare at it the whole episode.
Spocko super chatted $4.99.
What's up, Spocko?
It was back in the 80s when the left started the narrative that the melting pot was racist.
Well, yeah, they did that. They are the pushers of identity politics. They are the people that tell you, hey, skin color doesn't matter. Why are we so obsessed with skin color? It's fucking stupid. They'll go, well, that's racist. You're going to deny their identity and blah, 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 blah. It's like, no, we're all Americans. Yeah, you're black and you can be like, my ancestors came from this country and I have Italian ancestors and whatever, but they made it to where like what you identify as is more important than anything else. So first and foremost, you are white, you are black, you are this, you are that, rather than, hey, we're all Americans and we all need to come together, because obviously they don't want that. They want division. It's, divide and conquer shit. But yeah, dude, then people go like, oh, melting pot is a psyop. It's like, no, that's the reality. We are a country that had tons of immigration. We had to figure it out. You had all kinds of racism between white people. You had Italians hated Irish. And I mean, it's just insane to not think that this country is or was and still is, unfortunately. I mean, we kind of need to stop it at this point. We're full. We struggle with our own American identity right now. We kind of need a break. Like, let's stop bringing people in unless we absolutely have to. And let's figure out how we can all finally come together and just see each other as Americans and get over this racist divide. And a lot of it is propaganda that's pushed in the universities, and we gotta combat that. The answer is not to act like the idiots. Oh, well, they're all obsessed with their identity, so why can't we be obsessed with our identity? Well, it's because they're fucking idiots, and they're doing that to divide people so that they can fucking have more power and win more political power. They're not doing it because, it's the right thing to do. So let's just be idiots like them. Is that the answer? Let's just be identity-obsessed idiots like them? Low IQ fucktards who just think, like, the color of something is the most important factor? It's like, what? Like, if we're going to do that, let's do it with hair color and eye color too, all right? Let's do that, because if we're going to identify, like, some stupid fucking outward characteristic that we have no control over as being some important fucking thing, then we should do it with hair color, eye color, every little fucking detail. I want my own little redheaded community of fucking badass based fucking gingers, okay? If we're going down that route, right?
Your grandchildren would enjoy growing up. That's it.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and as far as Marjorie,
so it's not who cares. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Okay, lots of people hurt if Dave Rubin called me tonight, which he would never do, though he has my cell, and said, I'm really sorry I called you Hitler. Like,
the skin color is superficial, CWG. What's not superficial is culture and how you were raised. That's why you see good black people. If skin color was the ultimate factor, then all black people would be terrible. There wouldn't be good ones that we all love. We all know black people we love that are fucking smart, based, hardworking, intelligent. So what is it? Is it skin color or is it culture and the way you're raised? So if we're going to address this, thinking skin color is the predominant factor is you're going to get lost in the woods and you're never going to really address the issue of culture, upbringing, parenting, morals, Christianity.
That Rabbit's Dynamite super chatted $10. None of these racial issues really matter to the working class, backbone of the nation, and anyone not coddled by privilege. just my take. I'm far more concerned about cultures that don't mix well.
I think that's smart because there is an issue, especially with Islam, where they are not going to, I mean, not all of them across the board, it's never 100%, but the mass majority of them are never going to adopt the American way of life. They come to conquer. So people like that need to stay out. But people that love America and truly want to be part of this country and be American, those people, you know, if there's space and we need them, I can see accepting them, you know? But yeah, we need basically a halt in immigration till we can figure out, because the divide in this country is gigantic right now. We got to figure that out before we start letting more people in. It's like if you have a family where every night you're at each other's throats, like fucking just screaming and yelling. And it's like, oh, let's bring more people in this family. Now, maybe we could figure this family out first and how we can be peaceful and love each other. And then maybe we can invite more people into the family.
I didn't mean it. You're raising lots of legitimate questions.
It's all in my opinion too, by the way.
With, or I'm thinking about in a deeper way.
You're all welcome to disagree and have your own viewpoints. This is just my viewpoint. God bless you.
I'd be like, great.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care.
And look, Tucker, that's why I'm sitting here, you know?
Right.
I mean, because we had a contentious dialogue.
Well, I
for
thought
a
you were
long
a
time.
Fed.
I thought you were a Fed.
I was a Fed.
Yeah.
I'm not a Fed. But whatever. I don't care what people think.
We showed each other a badge, as we know well.
See, what I was really hoping to see, because Tucker never really came back when Nick, if you remember, again, Tucker called Nick a Fed, a gay Fed boy. He called him gay too. And then, you know, Tucker did all this fucking, Nick did all these shows about how Tucker's actually working for the CIA. His father's in the CIA. And then it turns out there was a point where Tucker seemed to say something that turned out to be not true. And it was kind of weird. Never been addressed. I still want to see that addressed.
No, but I thought you were a Fed because I was like...
Two Feds? It's still possible they both could be Feds. I don't know, dude. If I was to bet on it, that would be a hard bet to make. But I do like both of them. I do think both of them are very smart, and they have a lot of good that they can do for this country. If they would just... Nick probably needs to grow up a little bit. And Tucker, Tucker's fine. Tucker's grown up. He's like a wiser version of Nick.
Like, why not? It's not cucking to say you're not talking about all Jews when you oppose a foreign policy position. It's not. There's nothing liberal about that. It's just true. That's the Christian position. Mm-hmm. Okay. And two, why are you attacking like the best people and not the worst people? Well,
yeah. I mean, again, he disavowed me for my views on Israel and said I talk too much about white people and Christianity. And to me, that's like a sincere ideological disagreement.
I get it.
And, you know, same thing with Marjorie. Marjorie fired my guy. She disavowed me. And, you know, and you worked with Blumenthal on that article, but you called me on the phone and we talked.
Yeah. I mean,
I was
like, what? From my perspective, I mean, this is all so stupid and inside baseball and whatever, but for the record, I was like, first of all, who is this kid? I'm working at Fox News. I'm aware there's an internet, but I'm more out of it than you may appreciate. And I'm like, out of nowhere, attacking this one. I had Joe Kent here to my house and did this interview with him. And I'm always in search of a sincere politician. Don't have to agree on everything, but I really believe sincerity is the whole game. If someone's heart is pure, he will be brave. I always have thought that, and it's turned out to be true. Marjorie's a perfect example. And that's all that matters. If you're afraid inside, if you're weak inside, you will crumble when it matters. So I really felt like, wow, Joe, don't agree with him on everything, of course, but I was like, this guy is really sincere. He's like a good person. And then you show up and you're like, he's a CIA officer and he was a CIA contractor, but like really like crush the guy. And it's like, why of all people, you agree on 90% of stuff, you know, that was my view. And I was like, well, clearly this kid's a Fed.
Right. But you didn't know the whole story.
I didn't. You're absolutely right.
And look, and now
I don't think he knows the whole story, because the whole story he's missing is January 6th. That's a big part of it. I wonder how much research Tucker Carlson did, because I would have loved to see him actually, you know, hit him with all the arguments, you know, the January 6th stuff. Would have been nice.
And
but of course, they're trying to be nice. And, you know, it is nice that they're making up, you know, that there is something nice about that. But, you know, it would be fun.
I'm not trying to be combative. I think
Go ahead. You're not hurting my feelings.
No, I mean, here's what I'm trying to say is now that Marjorie is pushing in the right direction, I absolutely support everything she's saying. And I've not been critical of her at all this year.
Yeah.
Because I think that what she's doing is extremely courageous. And I think you're right. She is sincere.
So it sounds like you're, not to put words in your mouth, but your life experience has left you so stung by the Republican establishment. You don't trust anybody, it sounds like.
Well, no, I mean, these people attacked me when the rules were different, and now they got better, and now I'm good with them.
Is it an attack when somebody like me, like I come on and I disagree with Nick, and I disagree with the things he said? Is that an attack, or is that the nature of the world where we all don't agree? And the moment I disagree with you and I'm like, I don't agree with the way you handled this, and I don't agree with that, and I think it could... You're acting like a federal agent. Okay, maybe that one's a little bit of an attack to call him a Fed, okay? But mostly it's like anytime you disagree with somebody in public, all of a sudden it's like you're an enemy. It's like, no, of course I'm going to disagree with you. Of course we're not going to have all the same beliefs.
I mean, I'm willing to be good with them, but I think that I don't know if Marjorie still has a problem with me or not.
I don't know. I do know, though, and this is the last criticism I will level, and it's maybe not even your fault, but I do know that, the coordinated attacks against totally reasonable questions about what's in America's interest and what's not, those are all coordinated by the Israeli government. It's all come to light now. And they're against me. I've always thought I have the world's most moderate position on Israel. Don't hate Israel. Just don't want to get involved in their wars, don't want to pay for this, don't want to pay for abortion on demand in a foreign country, sorry. When we're cutting food stamps on our own, like, that's outrageous. It's not America first. That's my view. Not embarrassed of it at all. They are totally determined to take me out, I think because I'm reasonable. Like, who would disagree with that? And call me all these names, the most dangerous anti-Semite, when I'm not even an anti-Semite. And they're not doing that to you. Because, this is my view, and that's not necessarily your fault, but because they're like, Fuentes discredits the reasonable people because he's always banging on about the Jews. And so he makes everyone else look like a Nazi. And so it's like he's playing a pretty valuable role in the same way that Israel has always funded extremism throughout the Middle East, including Hamas, because it discredits the reasonable people. That's a fact.
Yeah. I would just say I disagree. I mean, because you said the other day, they like me. I don't know what you're talking about when you say that, because...
Well, you disagree in what way? Because it is a reality, right? And how do you know it's a reality? Well, the reality that you actually discredit people is every politician has to fucking disavow you. That's how you know it's a reality. So whether the Jews are the Israel, whatever fucking people out there are pushing you up to the top to make you a big voice so that you can discredit all the Israel criticism or not, you still have that effect. Evidenced by the fact that every politician has to distance themselves from you because of the shit you've said.
I don't know.
Let me just kind of rebut that.
And this doesn't hit as hard. That kind of commentary doesn't hit as hard without the clips of him saying that, because people will be like, oh, what he said. And then he'll be like, I was just being like pro-Christian, white Christian. And if you were to play the clips, and trust me, they're out there, do your own research. I'm not going to play them for the 100th time. That message would land with you better. If you haven't seen the clips, if you have, then you already know what I'm talking about.
Well, by the way, I'm not saying you have anything to do with this. I'm just saying I've noticed the phenomenon.
Totally. And I just reject that because they have been messing with me for my entire adult life. I mean,
the
ADL got me banned on YouTube. The SPLC posted my house on their website.
What do you mean posted your house?
They posted a photo of my house on their website.
How can they do that?
I guess that's a free speech thing.
The SPLC posted a picture of your house on their website?
Yes.
When?
In 2022.
That's pretty fucked up.
Actually?
Yes, they wrote an article.
First, I know he got doxxed, but I didn't know it was the SPLC. Like, that's fucked up. Yeah, ADL, SPLC, all they're fucking... Didn't they finally like take down a lot of their shit where they were like just calling regular ass MAGA people anti-Semites and all this shit? Yeah, they've been terrible, man. They've been terrible. They seemed like for a long time they were just a weapon of the left to just make right to legitimize the claims of all of us being Nazis and shit on the right.
They said Nick Fuentes bought a building in
Yeah, they
this
got
city.
nuked like a month ago. I remember Tim Hill, like, it was Cash Patel was like, we're no longer working with them or some shit like that. And I was like, oh, hell yeah. Because they lost all credibility except for the leftists who were like, oh, yeah, we told you they were Nazis. Look at the ADL says they're Nazis.
And they said, we interviewed his neighbors and property records reveal this and that. And on the front page, the picture for the article is my house where I live.
That's crazy. And then someone showed up with a gun and tried to kill you at that house?
Yes.
Can't you sue them? Can't you sue the SP? I mean, if they did this, and then isn't this grounds for a lawsuit? I know they cost money, but I think Nick, I mean, he seems to be doing all right financially.
So that's why I say, you say, well, they're not doing this to you. It's like the ZOA, the SPLC, the ADL, the Daily Wire. All these groups have been on me for years. So that's news to me if they're really endorsing my activities.
It could just be my perception.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess what I'm saying is, as someone who thinks his own views are like completely reasonable, pass every smell test, you could x-ray my soul. I don't think there's a lot of hate in there. And to the extent that they do make me feel hateful, the people who attack me, I do like say prayers about it. We're not allowed to hate people as we forgive those who trespass against us. That's like our core prayer. So I just feel like it's I don't know. Am I being paranoid? I feel like going on about the Jews like helps the neocons. That's
what about my views do you think are unreasonable if yours are reasonable?
I think, again,
dude, you should have had the clips ready to go, Tucker. If I had this interview, I'd have the clips ready to go. I'll be like, defend this. Why did you do this? Oh, it's out of context? Oh, okay, that'd probably be the answer to everything. He really should have the clips because what he's talking about, the problematic shit that Tucker's talking about, it's easy to just be like, oh, but what did I do? Like, you got to have the clip. So you got to be like, you said this, pull up the clip.
And I don't think it's cucky. I think it's reality to say that guilt is not inherited. Blood guilt is bad. One of the reasons that I'm mad about Gaza is because the Israeli position is everyone who lives in Gaza is a terrorist because of how they were born, including the women and the children. That's not a Western view. That's an Eastern view. That's a non-Christian. That's totally incompatible with Christianity and Western civilization. They say, oh, we're the defenders of Western civilization. Not with that attitude. You're not. Collective punishment is the enemy of Western civilization.
Yeah.
And so I hate that attitude. It's genocidal. The current claims that I'm a cancer, from Ben Shapiro or whatever, we need to be excised from the body of conservatism.
Yeah, I never watched the Candace. Yeah, Jack Mojo says Candace tried that and it made Nick feel like it was a setup with the clips. I don't know why, but I never went back and watched the Candace interview with Tucker. I mean, with Nick. That made Nick so mad. But that's kind of what you have to do because that's the heart of the controversy is the clips, is the shit coming out of his mouth. So if you're going to be like, well, why did you do this? Like, that's the shit he needs to respond to. And if it's all out of context shit, which a lot of people claim it is, that, oh, they were just jokes taken out of context, then he needs to make that clear. He needs to address that. Because if he can address that and show the full context and it turns out they were all taking out of context, then there's a possibility in the future politicians won't have to fucking disavow him when they get close to him. Because then it'll be like, actually, he didn't say any of those things and blah, 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 blah. That's the shit that needs to be addressed head on. But I don't think he can because they weren't out of context. Maybe they were just being edgy and he was just trying to be like super edgy for comedic value, but I don't know if that excuse is going to fly. But if it's, oh, this is out of context, like genuinely like, oh, I was talking in third person or something, or I was talking about how somebody else feels. Like if that's the case, then yeah, you need to address that shit head on.
Societal position that it basically encourages violence, as they well know. The whole thing I hate. Mm-hmm. So like anytime you say a whole group of people is responsible for the sins of some of its members, like I'm out.
Yeah, but that's not my view.
It's not. Okay. So so tell me your views. Like rather than you're one of those people, one of the reasons I wanted to meet you is you're one of those people who is defined by clips.
Yes.
And I'm one of those people also.
Yes.
Right? So I get it. So I'm going to just shut up. And you tell me what you actually believe.
Yeah. Well, and listen, I mean, and I appreciate you saying that because that's just the reality of the media environment we're in. So I don't expect you to know all my views, but I mean, as far as the Jews are concerned, I think that, like I said, you cannot actually divorce Israel and the neocons and all of those things that you talk about from Jewishness, ethnicity, religion, identity. And let me give you like a perfect example. So you say on your show that we need to treat Israel like any other country. And I sort of understand that in principle because Israel is another foreign country.
Yeah.
But Israel is unlike every other country in the sense that because the Jewish people are in a diaspora all over the world, there are significant numbers of Jews in Europe, but also in the United States. And because of their unique heritage and story, which is that they're a stateless people, they're unassimilable, they resist assimilation for thousands of years. And I think that's a good thing. And now they have this territory in Israel. There's a deep religious affection for the state. It's bound up in their identity, the story of the Exodus from Egypt, the promise of the land, all these things. So let's say in the United States, for example, somebody like a Sheldon Adelson, he's not Israeli. Is he an ideological neocon? Does he believe in the promise of democratic globalism? I don't think necessarily. His heart is in Israel.
Yeah, but the point that Tucker's making, like if you want to get rid of lobbyists, right? Instead of being like, oh, we need to get rid of Israel lobbyists, be like, no, we need to get rid of all lobbyists. And I'm for that. Let's get money out of politics. Let's ban lobbyists altogether. Fuck them. I don't know. It definitely needs a reform, but it's never going to happen. But yeah, that is one of the things you can do is instead of just being like, oh, we need to do this Israel, it just be generally across the board. Yeah, we shouldn't have foreign interests. We shouldn't be funding wars for any country. And that applies to Israel as well.
And it's because he is a proud Jewish person. And I guess what I'm saying is that if you are a Jewish person in America, you're sort of, and again, it's not because they're born, but it's sort of a rational self-interest politically to say, I'm a minority. I'm a religious ethnic minority. This is not really my home. My ancestral home is in Israel. There's like a natural affinity that Jews have for Israel. And I would say on top of that, for the international Jewish community. They're extremely organized. And many of them are critical of Israel or Israel's current government or the project of Israel. But I guess what they have in common, unlike, let's say, like Singapore, for example, is that they have this international community across borders, extremely organized, that is putting the interests of themselves before the interests of their home country. And there's no other country that has a similar arrangement like that. No other country has a strong identity like that, this religious blood and soil conviction, this history of being in the diaspora, stateless, wandering, persecuted, and in particular, the historic animosity.
Yeah, but can't you say the same thing about Christians? Aren't Christians like in every country and persecuted in every country?
Between the Jewish people and the Europeans.
There's a lot of like Jews that don't give a fuck about Israel too. So
they hate the Romans because the Romans destroyed the temple. That's why Eric Weinstein goes to the Arch of Titus and gives it the finger and takes a picture. We don't think like that as Americans and white people. We don't think about the Roman Empire in 2,000 years ago. They do. And so I guess that's really, and I don't think that's me saying the Jews, the Jews, the Jews. I don't think that's me being hateful. I don't think that's me being collectivist. I think that's understanding that identity politics.
True, Jet. Christians aren't tied to race. You're right. Christians not seen as a race the way, you know, and it is kind of silly that being Jewish is considered a race. It's, seems like it's a little weird, but okay.
Whether you love it or hate it, whatever you feel about it, it's a reality that we live in a world of Jews and Christians, of whites and blacks. These identities mean something to us and they mean things to each other, and we can't sort of wish them away. And it feels like white people and Christians are the only ones that do that.
Well, there's no question about that, your last point, for sure. One of the reasons they do that is because they've been taught to hate themselves, of course, since the Second World War. Another reason is, however, the reality of a multi-ethnic country requires you to sort of set aside community or group interests in favor of corporate interests, universal interests, national interests. And you have to do that or else it doesn't work. And so, I agree those attitudes, I mean, certainly in other parts of the world, people think this way, but you can't have that here. And so it's just important to remind everybody that, things may be generally true, but like, again, they're not always true. And there are people who just strongly disagree. And by the way, in the specific case of Israel, there are a ton of Orthodox who I know who are opposed to the state of Israel. They're more Jewish than Dave Rubin, a lot more. And yet they oppose it. Jeff Sachs is like a wonderful man, who's Jewish and most articulate kind of critic of the state of Israel that I'm aware of. So like, I don't know, that's just meaningful. You can't, if everything is inherited, then there's no hope for the continuation of America. Mm-hmm. Do you see that?
Yeah, I don't think it's genetically inherited. And what you're saying about putting aside the tribal interest for the corporate interest,
yes,
that's absolutely the case. And that's the only way the country's going to stay together.
Exactly.
And
that's my concern.
And I absolutely agree with you. I would say, though, that the main challenge to that, a big challenge to that, is organized Jewry in America. I don't think Bill Ackman is capable of that. I don't think Sheldon Adelson is capable of that. I don't think Yoram Hazony is capable of that, for that matter. And many other, on the right and the left. And I see Jewishness as the common denominator. And you're right. It's not all Jewish people feel the same way. No one would say that, but that does seem to be the common denominator. And I just feel like it needs to be called out explicitly. And I like what you said the other day. If you're serving in another country's military or have dual citizenship, you really can't be a part of this project.
Well, that's an easy one.
Yeah, but that's another one that you can address without ever even mentioning the word Jew. You could be, again, we can solve a lot of these problems without being like, oh, this is about stopping Israel. It's like, okay, well, Israel the worst offender of this? Yes, Israel's probably the worst offender. But, let's just make rules across the board that apply to all fucking countries.
I am much more comfortable as a Christian and an American keeping it on that level because, it's easy to just set universal rules that apply to everyone, not just the Jews or the Christians or the anybody, just like Americans can only serve in the U.S. military or they lose their passport. I don't know. That's not hard. And I don't know. Why not just say that?
Say what?
That. Why not make every statement about how Americans ought to behave applicable to all Americans? Like it's the defense of universal values that will hold the country together and the emphasis on parochial group values that will break it apart inevitably.
Because this is a particular issue and it's acute. Like I said, I think they are unique in that way. I think that's a unique issue, especially in the Republican Party, especially in the conservative scene. So how would you like this all to be resolved? What I would like is for the U.S. government to not be influenced by these kinds of foreign allegiances, not with money that comes from, American citizens like Sheldon Adelson, not from foreign lobbyists. So, in terms of tangible things, I don't think we disagree on any of it.
And what's the biggest argument against that? It's that, they're doing it because they hate Jews, because they're anti-Semitic. And who... Oh, okay, yeah. But that's the biggest comeback. Like, we need to stop, all this foreign influence. Oh, these people just hate Israel. They just hate Jews. That's what it is. They're anti-Semitic, right? And then they have somebody like Nick who provides them with the material to make that narrative more believable.
Registering AIPAC.
Which is the argument Tucker is making, has been making.
FARA, banning dual citizenship. I'm basically in agreement.
I think 80% of the public agrees with those things.
So
that's kind of what gets me a little bit annoyed. It's like these are, like America First, the concept, it's the most popular, self-evidently true idea you could have. Like, don't let foreign powers, especially tiny ones far away, control your country. Like, of course not. Everyone agrees with that on both sides.
Yeah.
So the trick is not to let that idea get subverted. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think we agree on that.
But it's subverted when they're like, that's hate. No, that's hate.
Yeah, he's basically saying what I just said.
Yeah. Well, and, here's what I will say. I think that there is increasingly a contingent, because what you're talking about exists. When you say that there are people that legitimately detract from this, there is legitimate racial hatred out there.
Big time.
And it's growing. And
I know.
people on our side are afraid to talk about it because they know, like you said, they're going to get called a cuck or a squish or whatever. And I agree with you. The people that are detracting from that need to be called out. And I think there should be no harbor for cruelty, hatred, prejudice, those kinds of things.
And some of them, I'm sorry to be
Did you hear what Nick just said? It's funny to see the last, like the evolution of my coverage of Nick, from like everybody being like, Nick is the greatest, Nick's the, and then all of a sudden he kind of pulls back a little bit and listens to the criticisms of people like me, like Tucker. Well, I don't know, he's not listening to me, obviously, but you know, people that are saying the same thing as me. And then it's like, oh, Nick's cucked now. Nick's bought and paid by Israel. So many people have turned on Nick, and it's like, I'm glad to hear Nick kind of having a smarter, like more palatable message politically, you know, because if he's serious about politics, not just being edgy boy, you know, Howard Stern of politics, like you'll make a lot of money. Be the Howard Stern of politics, be the edgy boy, you make a lot of money. But then you're not serious about political shit. You're not serious about political victory if that's the route you're taking.
conspiracy nut. I really try not to be a conspiracy because it's embarrassing.
Tim Hill, exactly. I didn't say it, but like I've heard him say this a bunch of times. Organized Jewry. Tim Hill says, when you start saying shit like Jewry, it triggers normie knee-jerk reactions and you can't have a conversation. And then the argument they'll say to you, Tim, is that, well, those people don't matter. Eventually, politicians won't have to disavow Nick because things are going to move in that direction. No, they're not. You guys are spending too much time in your fucking little circles where everybody thinks like you. Like, no, the center is always going to be the center. They're never going to become the fucking woke, J-pilled fucking group you think they're going to be. And we're always going to need the center to win political power. Okay? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe eventually the center, the independents, will all of a sudden become woke and J-pilled like the hardcore fucking Fuentes fans. It's not going to happen. So it's an unrealistic view, and you're not serious about winning political power.
Embarrassing, you know? But after January 6th and just finding out the number of FBI personnel in the crowd, it's like, and I've just seen this. David Duke is a great example. Some of these are the Charlottesville rally.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Had a bunch of feds there being like, we're white supremacists. We hate the blacks. You know, using the N-word, whatever. You know, it's like, that's not real. Like, there is some of that going on. Don't you think?
Someone asked me, Rusty says, do you think people are becoming more extreme or moderate? Okay, but where are people becoming more extreme? On the extreme left, extreme right, not the center. The center is the center because they're not extreme. The extremism that keeps pushing is far left, far right. That keeps getting more extreme. The center's still the center.
I think that there's a lot of sincere people.
Well, for sure. Oh, I
are,
completely agree.
You know, and they're just numbskulls, and some of them are legitimately, they see the opening, that there's legitimate critique of this, and they see an opening to air out their grievances. They get a license to, they think it's okay now. And I do think it's important to differentiate and say that fundamentally, I guess the word that I would use, I've been thinking about this a lot lately, is reassurance, because I think there's a legitimate, there is legitimate need to reassure people. And this is kind of what I've been doing on these podcasts, that we don't want to harm anybody. We don't want to kill anybody. We don't want to harm anybody. Right. We just want to put America first. And I guess, you know, to the extent that I've been taken out of context over the years or things like that, I'm trying to set the record straight and say, you know, and I appreciate you've given me this opportunity. These are my real views. I'm not one of those haters, let's say.
Yeah. Well, I think people should be allowed to describe what they think.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's like a basic human autonomy question.
Yeah.
Like, if I want to know what you think, I should just ask you and let you talk.
Yeah, but how many times are people going, I agree, like it would be nice, but how many times are people actually being honest and just saying what they truly believe and think, as opposed to what they want people or what's going to gain them the most in life?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So who's going to be president? Who should be president next?
Who should be president? Well, yay, of course. Kanye.
You had dinner with Trump.
Kanye? He's still supporting Kanye?
99 cents. The center is moved by the extremes.
Look, the center is still going to be the most moderate, bro. Okay, the center is not going to be the fucking wild racists, okay? It's not going to be the people obsessed with Israel. That's just the reality. Those people are going to join the right. They're going to join the woke left or whatever. The center is always where the moderate. So you're telling me the center is going to be where the extremes are now? Okay, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you're right. But the center, typically in all of history, has been the most moderate of the voters. Okay.
I did.
And Kanye.
Yes.
What did you think of that?
It was surreal because those are my two heroes. Those are my two number one heroes of all time. I've always been a Kanye West fan.
Thank you for
like
the
the
super
music
chat,
first?
Yes. The music, the fashion, everything.
Really?
Yes,
Do you wear those weird one-piece shoes?
I do.
You actually do?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like in public?
Yes.
I've never-
You don't
I've
think
never-
that's cool?
I've never understood how people get into the yay fashion. I always thought it was fucking so ugly.
I don't know what I think.
I'll get you some.
I've worn the same clothes since high school. Don't ask me about clothes. I'm not good at that at all. That's hilarious. So, but you've always been a fan.
Oh,
and
yeah,
then
huge
you
fan.
described your love for Trump, like sincere.
Yes.
I mean, he's still supporting fucking Kanye for president, bro. He's not serious. He's not serious. Let's see. I think there was one part. Yeah, toxic feminism. I think Tucker apologizes for calling him gay.
And do you think it's related to the huge decline in like actual sex and relationships and marriage, screwed up dating? All of this derives in part from porn, do you think?
I think it's a huge part of it. It's a huge factor. And it's
I
even
agree.
on the other side, too. It's become so destigmatized for women to actually participate in porn. People don't even recognize that OnlyFans is a whole separate category.
Spocko super chatted $4.99. Are you saying the center of the left hasn't moved?
Am I saying the center of the left hasn't moved? Things always move, man. But the way the center, okay, I don't know, dude. You're getting me to okay, I got to sit here and think about this for an hour. The center is always the most moderate. Okay? That's usually the way it is. If you're a leftist, you're on the left. You're not center. Now you're going to say center left? Okay, well, center left is left. Center right is right. You're just more moderate right or moderate left. The center I'm talking about is the independent swing voter. Okay, are there maybe some racists or some people that are J-pilled in the center, the independent swing voter? Yeah, possibly. But let's move on. We'll make a whole nother episode about this, okay? We'll debate this one little thing.
It's an innovation.
But the reality is, generally, the center is the moderate side. They're not the side that when you're going to go talking about like Israel and Judaism and white identity. That's really going to rarely ever appeal to the fucking center, okay? But maybe you're right. Maybe in 20 years, the center will be the woke identitarian types. I don't fucking know.
In the realm of pornography, because you have what everyone knows as porn, which is like videos of porn stars, like dedicated career sex workers having sex in a relatively controlled environment or something like that. But then you get OnlyFans, which is like Patreon for nudes or sex. And basically, there's now a very large subculture, much larger than people want to admit, of women who the moment they turn 18, that is what they do, is they make an OnlyFans account and they become an amateur porn star. And it is complete.
No, I'm not talking about libertarians, but libertarians can be considered the center. I'll say this again. I'm talking about the voter, the swing voter, that decides the elections, because you understand the way elections work. Republicans vote Republicans. All Democrats vote Democrat. And then you have the swing voter in the middle who actually decides who fucking wins. Okay? And when you're running for election, that is the most important vote. You don't really have to win the Republicans who are already going to vote for you. You got to win the swing voter, the independent voter who doesn't really classify as having a party. There are a lot of times they're not related to the party. I think libertarianism, you have right libertarianism and left libertarianism. So some of them probably might fall into that category where they don't vote for the libertarian candidate and they're going to vote left or right. Like we had last time, a lot of libertarians voted for Trump because they thought he was the better option and they knew their libertarian candidate wasn't going to win. But yeah, I'm talking about the voter that you have to win in order to win elections, which is the independent voter that will swing either way.
Casual.
And as of right now, having a message that can be construed as being racist, misogynistic, anti-Semitic is not good for winning those voters. Maybe that'll change in the future,
you could say
guys.
that maybe 10 years ago, even at the heyday of internet porn, to be in porn, you got to be a porn star. Like that's your life and that's your career and that's who you are. And it's very shameful. With OnlyFans, it's like, It's like having a TikTok. It's like, here's my link tree. Here's my Instagram account. Here's my Facebook account. Here's my YouTube. And here's my OnlyFans.
Why would any of this be legal?
I think that, well, there's, like you indicated, maybe there's an intelligence benefit to that.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a political benefit to that. I think that.
Well, why wouldn't you arrest the people who run something like that?
They should be. If you had a Christian government.
Or how about just a government that cares about it?
That's one way to lose an election, is to be pro porn, banning porn. Look, yeah, porn is terrible. It is. But I don't think that's another one. It's like, okay, probably the right Christian thing to do would be to ban OnlyFans and to ban porn. But yes, dude, a lot of dudes probably won't vote for you if they can't get their jack session going. If they got to go old school and fucking find a magazine or something, you know? I don't know, man. That is pretty radical.
People, I mean, is Iran a bigger threat or is OnlyFans?
You're in P-Money, you want to ban porn? That's a tough one, man. That's a tough one. You know, I do think it's bad for you, but I think there are some positive sides too, where like lonely dudes, you know? Like, what about the dude who just has no chance of getting laid? So what, now he can't jack it and release some fucking pressure? You know? Like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I do understand the amount of damage it's causing. I do understand that, but like a lot of things, they have bad and good to them. Most things aren't just inherently all good or all bad. They're a mixture of both.
And so Iran's not turning my daughters to prostitution that I'm aware of.
Right.
Right? I mean, that seems like one of the worst things that could happen.
Yeah, sports betting apps need to be banned too. I don't know. I would be up to open to like probably. I don't know. I don't know, dude. That's a tough decision. You know, everybody's against ID laws and shit, and then you know that's what we're doing in Texas. Like, you gotta show your ID to Pornhub if you want to get on Pornhub. Yeah, everybody's against that, but then when it comes to porn, ban porn, like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I do like being a free country, and that does come with some downsides, you know?
Any society.
Some degeneracy.
Oh, absolutely.
So how big is the support for that? Like, if a candidate were to come out and say, we ought to arrest the guys who own MindGeek, which is the biggest, I think it's the biggest porn supplier in the world, or the guys who run OnlyFans, what would the reaction be among, I don't know, people under 50?
I think there would be broad support for that.
Really?
They'd have fucking mass protests in the streets, bro. You think they're pissed about ICE? Just wait till you take away their fucking Pornhub, bro. I mean, I don't know. Maybe because in Texas people aren't doing shit, but there's ways around it, you know? There's ways around that shit, like VPNs. But if people really had no way to fucking goon, you took away all of their ability to goon. No, you know, there's no way to find any fucking pornography on the internet. I think people would, you know, there'd definitely be protests.
I do, actually, yes.
I hope someone will say that. And
someone needs to.
I hope someone arrests them, like, right away.
Yeah. That was actually
seizes their assets and puts them in prison.
Well, seizes their bodies and puts them in jail. Yeah, I mean.
The owners of that, people who are, I mean, talk about.
Particular Platypus does make a point. Like, people can still jack it without porn. People use their imagination. I mean, I'm old enough. I was before like all the free porn on the internet. So I'm like, what am I saying? That people will still jack it. They don't need porn. That's a good point. Yeah, ban porn. Just ban it.
Human trafficking.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I thought we were.
But it's still probably going to make you lose an election, unless you're like in the most conservative Christian district or whatever. But like a national election, you'll probably lose with that stance right now.
Against human trafficking.
Yeah. Well,
so you think that young people, because you always think of young people as so liberal, but like, no, they wouldn't think that was crazy?
No, I think especially among young men, they know it's a problem. It's ruining their lives. And they know it.
So what are the other factors that prevent?
It definitely would help our population collapse. Because I guarantee a lot of dudes, you know, if they didn't have all that porn, they'd probably go out and get a relationship.
Sorry I called you gay, by the way. But I'm always, I think I'm just too old or something. I'm like, why isn't anyone married? You tell me, why aren't people married?
Well, I mean, honestly, it's the women. The women are extremely liberal.
Okay, I'm probably going to agree with Nick on this one.
No one talks about that. Increasingly they do, especially after the last election. There's a 45-point difference between men and women. The men are extremely conservative, increasingly. The women are extremely liberal.
What are they liberal on? What issues? Like, what does that mean, liberal?
Oh, they're very feminist.
Like, actually?
Extremely feminist, yes.
They don't believe that, do they?
I think they do.
Really?
Absolutely,
How could
yes.
you believe that?
I
The
think
gender roles are a construct, that none of this is inborn? Like, you'd have to be an idiot to think that.
they like the idea of it. They like because of course I think all women naturally want strong men.
Of course, obviously.
They naturally want a Chad. They want like a tall, buff guy. But I think they like the idea of.
For me, the dating apps are part of what caused this, because what women used to do is they got the tallest, biggest, most Chad dude on their block, right? Now you go on the internet, you got the Chad of the whole fucking 250-mile radius. So now instead of just women going, okay, who's the guy I like at my school or on my block or at my workplace, like who I'm actually associating with in real life, now it's like, oh, I can see all the fucking tallest Chads in a fucking, as far as I want to drive. If some chicks might be hard up for a Chad, they'll drive 100 miles to go on a date with a Chad. So yeah, dating apps. Can we ban dating apps too? Is that possible? Can we look? A lot of these problems will be solved if we just ban the internet entirely. Just completely ban the internet. But then we go down this like weird route of like, we're just banning everything because it has negative effects. And it's like, okay, well, that's probably going to lead to problems too. Sometimes you just have to allow freedom, and with freedom comes some terrible shit. Sometimes you have to put up with the terrible shit because it's worth the cost of freedom.
None of them want to work either.
If we're going to ban porn, let's just ban the entire internet, okay?
That's what I'm saying.
Except for my YouTube channel. I'll be the only one standing.
Of course.
Right.
It's obviously true. It's always been true. Work outside the home.
Right.
They don't have enough work at home. There's a lot to do. But no, I completely agree. So that's why I question like their feminists in what sense.
Yes. And, they like these vague appeals to equality.
I got to respond to this with Double Denim, okay? Because Double Denim makes a good point, but I got to counter here. Double Denim says, I'm a couple minutes behind, but releasing pressure is for undisciplined, weak fools. I'm guilty myself. There's a lot to semen retention when it comes to personal energy, though. Here's how it works for me, Double Denim. I do, like, if, semen retention, I don't like that term. It just sounds gay. I'm semen retention. Like, not spanking it for a while can have its benefits, okay? Right? But then, like, if you're not going out and getting laid, that benefit of more energy, like, more testosterone, feeling like, a little better, can become a little too much at a certain point where it's like, you go a week or whatever, you start to get a little cranky, you start to get a little too quick to anger, which maybe that's a good thing. But again, like everything, there is good and there's bad. Yeah, it's not good to be fucking splooging every 10 minutes. Okay, it's not good probably to be splooging every day. Okay, but then when you're talking about months or 2 months for some people who can't go out and get laid, they have no game, they're ugly, they got nothing going for them. That's where it can become a problem. And I'm sure like there's studies been done that probably might lead to more rape and shit like that.
Quality. We want a chance.
Again, moderation in everything, even splooging. That doesn't mean never splooge. Don't over splooge. Don't under splooge. Just splooge the right amount, okay?
To work, and we want respect. And, ultimately, I think the whole political system is just based around women never being accountable for any of their choices. Ultimately, that seems to be that's what abortion is.
Yeah, of course.
Because 99% of abortions are elective. So they say it's an unplanned pregnancy. You had sex out of wedlock with someone you didn't intend to have kids with. So now we have to kill the kids in the womb. And, these no-fault divorce laws. These women get married to guys maybe they never intend to stay with. And then when they're out, they're done. And they want child support and they want half the stuff. And I think
that's another big problem, the divorce laws. I mean, you have women who like they have apps now just to find like rich men. Like they'll literally stalk NBA players because it's almost like some women grow up and their dream is like, oh, it's not, I'm going to be this great person or that person. It's like, oh, I'm just going to find a rich fucking wealthy dude, hopefully an NBA player, and I'm going to have their baby and I'm going to be set for life. Our system is set up not to keep couples together, but to break them up.
A lot of men are looking at women and they're very liberal. They're overweight. They have a very high estimation of themselves. I think that people call it hoflation.
Hoflation?
Yes, their sense of their own looks and sexual value is very inflated. And so a lot of people are looking at these like frumpy, obnoxious, loudmouth, liberal women who are also very promiscuous and saying this is not actually appealing at all. And I don't want to start a family with a person
Sounds
like
awful.
this. Yeah, it is.
But if you believe in the patriarchy, as I fervently do, because it's just reality, we didn't choose the system. We were born into a system that is part of nature, can't get out of it. So if you believe that that's true, which it is, then you think that men should lead. And if it's going to be better, men should make it better because that's their job.
Right.
So you don't want to give them a pass, do you? It'd be like, it's all the girls suck. So
I don't even blame it on the women because I think that it's the incentive.
But we don't have the power to put them in their place anymore. That's the problem. Look at Sean Connery's generation. To Sean Connery, it was no big deal to slap a bitch. I'm not saying I agree with Sean Connery, but from his generation, like when a woman got out of control and got hysterical, which we see all the fucking time. Okay, watch these protests, watch these leftist women. They get fucking hysterical. His generation saw nothing wrong with slapping a woman and being like, calm down. Now, that was terrible. That's terrible. But that's history. History is filled with men having to keep women and their emotions under control because their emotions are a problem. And we don't have that now. Now, their emotions, if we even question their emotions, we're a bad person. When they start flipping out and they want to fight you because, you didn't save the last chicken nugget for them. So that means you don't love them. And now there's a whole crash out over it. You can't do nothing. And if you say, honey, you're being crazy, you're a bad person. Back in the day, whether you agree with it or not, there was a certain point where the man would go, okay, I need to slap her back into reality. It was wrong. It was wrong. Sean Connery, terrible person. Great actor, though. The best 007, in my opinion.
Structures. Women are allowed to do this by the legal system, by kind of social norms. Technology is a big part of it. The attention that is available to women. Women go on Instagram and they get attention from thousands of men. So it's the incentives. But I would say that, because I hear this all the time, people say, well, the men need to step up and be better and lead the women. Easier said than done.
Of course, I agree with that.
They're at war with the system, and not even just the system, but also society. Because let's say you find one of these so-called good girls who's Christian and traditional, but through osmosis, wherever you go, she's going to be in society. She's going to be on TikTok. She's going to be on Instagram. She's going to be talking to other women. And maybe she's one way when you meet and get married, but 10 years down the road, 15 years, 20 years down the road, people
many such
change.
Cases.
And I think that women, as kind of the ultimate conformists, the ultimate enforcers of like social norms, I think eventually the pressure from society kind of gets to them. And a lot of them will go in a different
Depends what kind of
direction.
husbands they have. I mean, if there's real leadership at home, I don't know a single happily married woman.
Yeah, but you can't be a leader if they're not willing to follow. Okay, I mean, I'm sure Tucker's got some based older woman who's like old school, but you can't be the leader unless your woman sees you as the leader and is willing to follow you. And women these days are trained to be the leader, to be the one telling you what to do, to be the one fucking constantly. It's flipped now. It's flipped now. Women, it wasn't like, okay, we're going to give you equality, women, and we're both going to be equal in the relationship, which I agree there should be equality in the relationship. But at the end of the day, one person in the relationship is always going to be the one that ends up being the decider every time, right? So women have now taken that role on, and you see it in a lot of relationships. I've seen it in my life, many relationships. The men are not making the decisions. They are not. They're there. If there's a fight, the men will show up. They got to defend their woman. But when it comes to making decisions, they are completely fucking, their balls have been chopped off. That's the norm for relationships these days. And a lot of men don't want to deal with that. That's not attractive to them. They don't want to get married just to be fucking bullied by some woman for the rest of their life.
And who's liberal? Not one. I know a lot of married women. I mean, I'm 56. All the women I know are married.
Mm-hmm.
and every happily married woman is non-liberal.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even imagine. There's no category for happily married middle-aged liberal woman. There isn't, never been one.
Right.
Obviously, like there's a lot of women that are not like that now. There's like a lot of you got to find yourself one of these trad women. You know, they're out there. They're out there. I don't know. Some of them might be pretending to be trads, but they're out there. Let's check out. Okay, we're gonna get into this Tommy clip. So Tommy went to Portland State University and he's trolling the college kids. There's a couple funny clips. Then we'll get into the Charlie Kirk stuff. I am going to add some context because a lot of people are dying on this fucking hill of the 30-06. There's no way there would be no exit room. It's impossible for there to be no exit wound. We're gonna dive into that, and then we're gonna also get into a lot of the text messages, the Discord shit, with a lot of information's coming out about Tyler Robinson and his boyfriend, and like the shit they were talking about and how fucking crazy they were. And we'll get into that. But let's have some fun here. Here's Tommy triggering some leftists.
You got a Care Bear shirt on. You're a fucking child predator. Yeah, you're a child predator. Go brush your teeth. Go fix your teeth. Go fix your teeth. Go fix your fucking teeth. No, you wanna go fix your teeth, stinky bitch. You fix your. Go fucking fix your teeth, you stinky fat bitch. Try me, motherfucker. Fucking try me, motherfucker. Do something. Get the fuck out of my space. Get the fuck out of my space, stupid.
Hey, you're trans. Calm down.
This is what was wrong with the transgender people. They're fucking nuts. No, I'm over here standing
Did he just push a black man? That's very racist.
here talking.
The black man of peace there trying to keep the peace, and he shoved him. That's not, I don't know, that's not being an ally if you ask me.
I'm using my words. They're using violence.
You're not innocent either. So
Yeah, I'm here using my words. Using words is not wrong.
This is a perfect, let's see what this guy does.
Using words is not wrong.
No, see, perfect example of somebody, as soon as people get in between and they start blocking you, they get real tough. They're like, yeah, hold me back. And then he gets there, nobody's blocking him. What does he do? Nothing.
That Rabbit's Dynamite super chatted $10. The nose ring is a sign anymore.
Yeah, you know, a nose ring on a woman is definitely a warning sign. A nose ring on a dude, run for your life. You think a nose ring on a woman is bad? A nose ring on a dude, that is another level of a warning sign there.
Fucking tranny. You got a Care Bear shirt on.
And then he gets attacked by a woman. A woman just slams him from behind and takes his glasses and his hat. So I'm glad. See, I thought we weren't going to get any more Tommy clips. It looks like Tommy's going to make this a career. He's going to go to all these woke universities and just troll the fuck out of everybody. And I'm here for it, dude.
My fucking hat, bitch.
hey, give me that fucking hat, bitch. What is wrong with you?
She just stole my fucking hat and my glasses.
Thank you for the super chat, brother.
And my fucking glasses, dude.
Yeah, fuck you, bitch.
Fucking bitch.
What the fuck is your problem?
She just stole my fucking hat,
Are you
stupid.
scared?
Are you scared? You just committed a crime. What are you talking about scared? You're going to jail.
Scared? His glasses. Oh, in the garbage?
So he calls the police. Let's skip ahead a little bit.
Fucking bitch tried to take my hat. Just got tackled too. Fucking dumbass bitch.
Tommy's pissed, bro. It's like you know how like if you have somebody who's like demon possessed and you like walk by them and you have like a crucifix or you have a some sort of holy item and they just start going nuts. That's how they behave with MAGA hats. Like they just go into some sort of fucking demon possession and just attack, bro.
Hey. That bitch just grabbed my hat and almost broke my glasses off my head. I was facing the other way. I don't even know who she is. She stole my hat. We had to get it back from her. She's right over here.
She assaulted him.
I think we need to do this. The more I see Tommy doing this, look, you can disagree with Tommy's strategy and I think this is smart. We need to like start engaging, like same way like Charlie Kirk did, but like a more personal, lower level, not like these huge events, but like just show up. Just show up with the MAGA hat and let them know we fucking exist. and then, debate them and, show them to be the idiots that they are. But yeah, let's see if, I haven't heard anything, but let's see if the PSU, the Portland State University police officers actually do anything, or they just let it go, because this is beyond just a bump. She came up, took his hat, took his glasses, damaged his glasses. That's definitely got to be something that you can go after somebody for. All right, so let's get into this. Charlie Kirk killer's Discord logs. This is from Turkey Tom. I've been wanting to react to this one and play it for a while, but I keep, there's too much other shit going on, so I keep missing it. Here, let me share the link. Again, for all the new viewers who are just popping in, there's the link to the video. Please don't cry about me interrupting. There's your link. All right, let's watch this.
The date is September 10th, 2025. Charlie Kirk is shot and killed. Over the next few days, law enforcement and...
Before we get into it, smash the thumbs up. We got 60. Let's see if we can get that going. See if we can get closer to 100. Links as well, if you guys want to become a member and support the show. Links are in the description. Thank you, guys.
Internet investigators pore over the available information to identify the killer. Eventually, they determine it to be Tyler Robinson. And they also realize that Tyler has a transgender...
Oh, you're good, Chris Batman. I get that, man. I know times are tough. No one has to send any money. But if you can smash the thumbs up, that'd be appreciated. And share, if you can't support financially, sharing, smashing the thumbs up, leaving a comment, all that helps the channel, and it's very much appreciated.
And a romantic partner named Lance Twiggs. Tyler is arrested.
Lance Twiggs
cooperates with the police and then disappears from the public eye. 13 days later, I released a video going over all of the publicly available information about Tyler and Lance.
This guy's fucking
articles,
nuts.
Witness testimony, Lance's TikTok and Reddit accounts, and I thought that was it. But then I received a message. This message was from a third party who was close to both of them and remained in contact for 6 years up until the attack took place. They reached out to me, providing never-before-seen information on the lead-up to what happened. To my knowledge, the only other people who have this are the FBI. Now, as I go over this information, you'll notice that some of it is redacted, but I've redacted it myself with the exclusive intention to preserve the anonymity of both this person and other people who are named, who have nothing to do with Tyler's crime. Now, keep in mind, these claims are being made by an anonymous leaker. There could be more to certain events that we're simply not aware of, and other details that may explain more of the story. Additionally, some of this video is my opinion and should be treated as such, but I've done my best to provide you all with the information I'm able to share to the extent it can be verified. In his first message to me, this person said, "Hello, I just watched your video on the Charlie Kirk assassin Tyler and thought you did a good job. I happen to know Tyler and Lance in real life. I don't take a lot of pictures, so I can't prove it very well, but I am in Discord servers where both of them are, including the one where Tyler posted his confession. I have some pictures of the apartment and some stories I can tell." There were 2 pictures attached underneath. One of Tyler's confession in the Discord chat that matched the ones published by Ken Klippenstein, which were then republished by every major news outlet. The other picture is a completely original photo of local police at Tyler Robinson and Lance Twiggs' place, taken from across the street. For the sake of verification, he later also provided me with archives of the 3 Discord servers they shared, which I'll eventually go over the relevant parts of. Once this person's identity was verified, he proceeded to tell me about the state of Tyler and Lance's living space. The apartment would drastically shift from clean to super dirty, depending on the state of Lance's mood. I don't have too many pictures of most of the mess, but basically, he'd start living in the living room and just start turning it into his nest. After the first roommate moved out, and right after Tyler moved in like 2 weeks later, Lance had a really big breakdown. The living room went from a place guests came over to something that had to be hid. People still came over, but everyone got weirded out by all the trash. He basically had layers of wires, random Temu trinkets, decorations, random art projects, clothes, and empty alcohol containers everywhere.
I know quite a few people that live like that. They live in fucking squalor, dude. As everybody knows somebody. You know somebody like that, right? That they don't fucking clean. You go over to their house and it's just fucking beer cans, soda cans, all of their shit for the whole week, just everywhere. Now, some people, because there are times my shit can get that way as well. And it's usually when I'm like really busy. Like if I'm working on a project and I'm just like, my mind's totally on that project, I'll just not give a shit about cleaning. But eventually you do have to clean. You know, eventually when you have some time on your hands, you clean because it starts to make you fucking crazy. That's the downside. Having a fucking filthy fucking place is bad for your brain. But sometimes it happens, dude. But it is a sign.
and if anyone touched it, he would get livid. One friend got banned from the apartment for a while because he kept touching the Temu trinkets. I wish I still had pictures, but I felt sort of guilty and deleted them since I knew Lance wasn't in the right state of mind. For context, I've been playing games with Lance and Tyler for like 6 years. I count myself kind of close to them, but I was trying to separate them from myself because being around them wasn't good for me. I say them, but Tyler was always level-headed and easygoing. But
what's crazy about this is that Tyler seems to be the guy who's accused of murdering Charlie Kirk seems to be the more normal one. But, normal people, if you get in a relationship with a crazy person, they can drive you fucking crazy. They can fuck your mental health up bad.
Lance could be anywhere from too depressed to talk to manic, wide-eyes, crazy person. I'll take a brief moment here to comment on the fact that in my original video, this is more or less the impression that I had, judging exclusively from Lance's more significant and expressive online presence relative to Tyler's almost non-existent digital paper trail. From Lance,
you can just look, this photo is a perfect example.
Online presence relative.
Let me go back. Sorry.
Judging exclusively from Lance's more significant.
He looks normal here. This is Lance. He looks fucking normal. He doesn't look like he's got SSRI eyes. He looks normal. I wonder if this is before he went to somebody who was like, oh, I'm depressed, which by the way, everybody has periods, especially as a teenager where you get fucking depressed and that's just part of life. You'll get better. You don't need to be pumped full of fucking drugs to solve the problem. You just need some fucking, guidance and like to be kept busy. It's the biggest thing. Stay busy as a fucking kid. Keep yourself busy. But he looks normal here. And then you look at
expressive online presence relative.
Tyler Robinson. Now he's got the SSRI eyes. These are the SSRI eyes. And then when you look at the pictures of Lance later, like we'll see where he's that furry. Like he's all of a sudden he's got the SSRI eyes. There's something there, dude. There is some connection with this shit and these fucking antidepressants they're giving them. You can't tell me any other way at this point. There's got to be a connection between taking these fucking antipsychotics or whatever they're called and losing your fucking mind.
To Tyler's almost non-existent digital paper trail. From Lance's Reddit account and the things his family...
Now he's got the SSRI eyes, right? Compare that to the other picture. His eyes looked fucking normal. We never find out. Like, the FBI needs to start coming out and be like, yes, they were on SSRIs, because I'm telling you, there's some link there. And even when you look at the warnings on these things, look at the warnings, you're like, oh, like the Lexapro, go look at the warnings. Go look at what it tells you it could do. It makes perfect sense when you look at the warnings.
Members had to say about him, he clearly was more outspoken and in some ways unstable. There were Reddit posts of his mentioning being at odds with his family to the point of being kicked out, and he had also discussed a lot of substance abuse issues, which are a far cry from the quiet, even if uneasy relationship that Tyler seemed to have with his family. What was completely unknown, and as far as I know hasn't been published anywhere, is this combination of hoarding and mania that this person describes Lance as exhibiting. The messages continue.
Look at those eyes.
During this first nest that this
compare
person
that compare that to what we just saw. Compare it to what we just saw. Like this, at this point, this guy is drugged the fuck up, bro.
Describes Lance as exhibiting. The messages continue. During this first nest phase, Lance started working very rarely. He worked with his dad for a tub repair company. They'd either repair tubs or install them at construction sites. But when Lance was super depressed or just too manic, he'd take the day off and hit his THC vape, drink, and scroll reels. Anyway, 2 weeks before Lance's first nest phase, when the apartment was mostly normal, Tyler moved in with Lance because he'd just dropped out of college and was tired of living with his parents. He had been working with his dad at a stone cutting business where they'd install countertops. Tyler was kind of your normal blue-collar Utah guy. Most conversations with him, he'd talk hunting, camping, gaming, and he loved to talk about fishing. Now, first off, the combination of depressants with cognitive stimulants are leading factors to severe anxiety, paranoia, depression, and even...
That's the other thing that people don't mention is that these people are on these fucking hardcore antipsychotics, and they're smoking weed, and they're drinking, and they're doing all kinds of other drugs. That can't be good.
psychosis, and that's without mentioning the documented connection between weed and schizophrenia. Obviously, as I assume most of you know, weed basically has two components, THC and CBD. CBD is not psychoactive, and it's often associated with treatments for anxiety, pain, and inflammation. Meanwhile, THC is psychoactive, and despite it also having some therapeutic uses in the treatment of nausea and side effects of chemotherapy, THC is the component of marijuana that's associated with symptoms like paranoia, psychosis, and, like previously mentioned, schizophrenia. Now, obviously, the vast majority of stoners or casual smokers are not exhibiting these symptoms. This is not a typical thing. But in certain people who are predisposed, THC can absolutely trigger a sort of psychotic meltdown, or it can compound with other mental health issues to make them just much, much worse.
I love weed, but I've always acknowledged that it does not affect us the same. Everybody's affected differently. I had friends, we used to, I was a high school stoner, and I had friends, we used to get high and we would smoke the same joint, and I'd be like I am right here, maybe a little, a little more red-eyed, a little more goofy, but I'd be normal basically. And then I'd have friends that would be like, eyes rolling back in their fucking head, like, I'm like, what the fuck is going on? That dude ended up, I think he quit smoking weed, but I had a few friends like that. It wasn't just one person. So it was just weird. And people say, oh, he's just pretending. It's like, no, not everybody's affected the same way. So yeah, yes, we should legalize weed, but we should also inform people that, like, hey, like alcohol, it can be bad for you. There are people who can have a drink now and then, and there are people that have a drink and they're gone for 10 years of their life, just lost. Okay. There's some people that can smoke a joint and have a good time. There's some people that smoke a joint and they fucking lose their mind. So know what you're getting into.
In Lance's case, it sounds like he was using way too much pot, while simultaneously drinking heavily and scrolling reels. If there's any way someone can drive psychosis...
Redonk says it's the pens. I'm convinced. Yeah, I also wonder what's in that shit. I don't vape. I get flower. And yeah, I get the new THCA shit, but I get the flower version. And it tends to not be as strong. It still works pretty good, but it's not as strong as a lot of the shit that's out there now, which is good because I don't want to get blasted. I just want to fucking get a little loose and have a little bit of fun, but still be able to talk and think straight. So it works for me. But some of the shit now is so fucking strong, and these kids are they don't have the tolerances. But yeah, I still 100% believe we should legalize marijuana, but we should also, be honest about the bad sides of it and not pretend it's all good.
Mania from first principles, this is definitely up there. Now, in my original video about this topic, I mentioned that there were two specific periods of change.
When I was in Colorado, I did get some vapes and I did enjoy it, Skullworks RC. But I went to high quality places and bought high quality vapes. I wasn't buying them off the street. It was great because you could be in the hotel room hitting the vape and it wouldn't smell or whatever. But in a place like Texas, you can get the Delta 9 THCA vapes from the store, but they're just too harsh every time I've tried them. So yeah, but yeah, I've had some vapes that were badass when I was in Colorado. So not all bad.
For Lance and Tyler.
Probably some shady ones out there that are sold on the streets.
2020, when the pandemic hit, locking everyone inside their houses and apartments, and therefore driving them to spend a lot more time on the old computer. And as the
Delta crap sold at every gas station sent to many people to the ward. What are you talking about? For their hearts, or they went crazy? And Delta crap, that's what weed is, right? I think weed is Delta 9, regular weed. I might have said it wrong earlier. And then you got Delta 8, you got CBD derived weed. There's so many strains. I'm just talking about THCA. I use it all the time. No issues. Okay. No issues. So I don't know. But there are people that the edibles, they take too much. The edibles can be a real problem. That's usually where the most problems come in. And I've had problems taking too many edibles. There's a point where you can, have panic attacks and shit. And if people don't know that, they freak out, they go to the emergency room, and then, it's like, really, you'll be okay, you just got to give it time. But not everybody knows that. They think they're dying, and then they go to the emergency room. Is that what you're talking about?
Discord logs are going to show later.
Yeah, I don't buy it from the gas station. I go to a legitimate head shop that specializes in selling THC. I don't go to the gas station.
Later, it's probably when Lance and Tyler started to
Not saying it's
communicate
bad
most
stuff. I don't
frequently,
know. I just
even if they
prefer
were
not
already
to.
gaming and talking prior. The second period was during 2024, which is when Tyler moved into the apartment with Lance. And as their anonymous peer here is saying,
Yeah, it gets so confusing. He says Delta 8 is crap, kind of fake. Yeah, Delta 8 is, you know what? When I quit, I did use Delta 8 CBD with like low THC to help me sleep. So I could not like get stoned, but I could sleep better, because one of the hard parts about quitting weed, like the only downside when I quit weed, is sleeping. You start to have like, just like you're in and out of dreams. It's so fucking weird. You don't sleep as soundly as you used to. And that lasts like a month. But if you get some CBD, that'll help. But yeah, what I get is THCA. And from my understanding, THCA is essentially normal weed that they spray with some shit. They spray it with some shit so that when it's tested, it doesn't test like the illegal weed. And then when you smoke it, it basically turns into regular weed. Okay? So yeah, there's a whole bunch of different things. There's THC 0, garbage, Delta 8, garbage unless you just want it for sleep, you want the CBD effects of it. But THCA is pretty fucking good.
within 2 weeks of Tyler being there, Lance began his nest phase, as he puts it. Funnily enough, the one other instance I've ever heard of making a nest in your living room comes from Theo Vaughn talking about what he did during binges of the white
we all don't
dust
get to
kind
live
of
in San
stimulant,
Diego,
if you know
AXA.
what I mean.
In Texas, we got to get what we can
Make a
get.
nest in my living room, dude. Boy.
And more than anything else you can think of.
Turn you into a damn owl, homie. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You'll be out on your own porch, you know?
Yeah.
While this description is obviously played up in its context, it's actually a pretty common experience to start hoarding while in states of paranoid mania, which is what Lance appeared to be going through. From his Reddit history, we know that Lance used to be a big fan of Jordan Peterson, who is widely known as the clean your room guy, repeatedly harping on how your living space reflects your psyche. If this leaker is telling the truth, then it would make sense that as Lance's mental state deteriorated, so did the physical space around him. With all of that information
Only you cleaned your room, bucko. You wouldn't have murdered Charlie Kirk.
regarding Lance being corroborated by these messages, we also have the reveal that Tyler had dropped out of college and decided of his own volition to move out. In my original video, we had the information that he was in an electrical apprenticeship program at Dixie Technical College. But based on these messages, it seems he dropped out and was just working at a masonry business with his dad. Again, this matches the picture of Tyler that one can derive from all of the testimonies regarding what kind of person he was. So after about 5 years or so of being friends with Lance, he decides to move in with him. But at this point, there's no sign that the two are engaged in a romantic relationship. Their peer continues. I felt super bad when he first moved in with Lance because it was normal for like 2 weeks, and then Lance went nuts, and the entire downstairs just became his nest. He'd be doing experiments in the kitchen, which were mostly just growing mold in Tupperware mugs, and the kettle with random Temu trinkets and rocks submerged in them. Every once in a while, I'd try to have a talk with Lance and try to get him to realize he needed help without making him go ballistic. Now, this is actually bizarre. One of the things I didn't pay that much attention to in my first video about this was that Lance made 2 posts regarding growing fungi, one of them in r/mushroom growers, and another one of them in r/shrooms. However, they were very brief non sequiturs that didn't at all give the impression of how deeply
I don't know if he was having SSRIs, if he was taking like Zoloft or some shit like that. But my educated guess is yes, he was. Then you add on top of that psychedelics, weed, alcohol. It's a recipe for disaster, bro.
invested Lance was
Especially
into growing
if
mushrooms,
you're
which
already
apparently he
inclined
was,
to,
at least
mental
during his
illness.
episodes. The interest in mushrooms peaking when Lance is at his craziest reminds me of the cult of the lamb cordyceps that takes over one of the characters and makes him want to grow more mushrooms. This is extremely strange behavior, but my personal autism aside, the messages continue. I'm not going to say it was all just him being insane. His mom is super Mormon and also kind of crazy, so there's that. And all of the drugs, weed, LSD, shrooms, DMT, and I think he said Molly, but I'm not sure. Also, alcoholic levels of alcohol.
Here's one thing I noticed. A lot of the Mormons I know, you think of Mormons, you think like, oh, they're like, they don't fuck around. Of course they don't do drugs. Of course they don't drink. You'd be wrong. You'd be wrong. There was a family I knew who, the women in that family, they were Mormon, were like problems, bro. They were like teenage chicks that would do massive amounts of drugs and fuck anybody. There's something about like when you raise women like they rebel and they go the opposite direction, and then sometimes they come back, you know. But how do you avoid that? You raise somebody in like a Christian family, you teach them Christian ideals, and then they turn 16 and they're fucking everybody, doing all kinds of drugs. Like how do you fix that? Because I've seen that a lot, and a lot of like women that are raised Christians, you know.
Lance has always been a little weird and quirky, but never really crazy. He was constantly arguing with his mom every time he saw her, and then ranting about Republicans and Mormons when he got home.
Snarky Brew. This was probably 22 years ago. So yeah, I lost touch. I didn't know him that well. It was a buddy that I went over to his house and spent a couple days there. And it was one of his little sisters was so like, because I was smoking weed, right? And I would go out in the backyard and try to take a smoke. Because the dude I was friends with was like a true clear-cut Mormon, but we were still cool because we ran in the same circles. We played Counter-Strike together. And then his little sister would like catch me smoking outside and would try to get me in trouble. And yeah. Anyway, let's move on. They're not the only ones. I also worked with some Mormon chicks who were a lot of fun.
Sometimes talk with him for like 4 hours of him just ranting about his mom and family. He really hates Mormons. Also, at the time, politically, Lance and I would both probably describe ourselves as libertarian, and Tyler was very apolitical. On his Reddit account, there is one relatively old post about Lance having substance abuse problems, and you could assume that due to him no longer posting about it, he no longer struggled with it. Apparently, it was the opposite, as over time, it only got worse. And it's really the mention here of DMT that stands out to me. While the other drugs are bad enough and can permanently damage your brain, especially in combination with each other, even people who like DMT will tell you about how careful you have to be about using it, even if you try your best to do it in a therapeutic setting. But clearly, Lance was in no state of mind to manage his substance intake in any way that resembled healthy. It almost freaks me out how easily someone like Lance could get his hands on that kind of thing, despite being completely out of his mind for months on end. This set of messages also confirm another suspicion of mine expressed in the first video. Prior to 2024, neither Lance nor...
Well, I remember working in Utah, and the beautiful thing about Utah is it's right next to Colorado. So it's not hard to get weed from Colorado and then just drive back to Utah. I did it multiple times. No, actually, I didn't do it. But yeah. God, Colorado may be like the wokest place in the world, but man, legal weed is awesome. I really loved it.
Tyler were particularly political, as they only ever expressed opinions that could be loosely classified as socially liberal, which most young Zoomers are by default anyway. However, this changed suddenly and drastically during the year that they lived together. He had his nest phase for probably 3 to 4 months.
They were in St. George, right? St. George is not that close to Colorado, but it's not too bad.
Before he sort of went back to normal. But at the tail end of his nest phase, after we had both talked for a while, he told me he was trans, and that it wouldn't change anything, and that I could even use whatever pronouns, and he wouldn't care. Over the next week and a half, the living room got
You can drive, yeah, okay, AXA, yeah, every time when I was in Colorado, I did bring some back, in a video game. But the thing about driving from Colorado to Texas, there's only like, if you go I-10, like you can go all the way down to I-10 and down through El Paso, because I'm coming down to San Antonio. It was difficult to come back because I didn't like to go that way, because it was actually like you'd go way out of your way to get to I-10 and then finally you head like south to Texas. I would go through all these small little fucking towns, and that is an adventure, bro. You don't want to be going through all these small little Texas towns with weed on you. But I made it. There was a few times where like the person in front of me and the person behind me got pulled over, but I never did. And those small towns, they know what's up. They make a living off catching people trying to bring weed from Colorado. So yeah, just be careful. Just be careful. Don't be like me. Take the highway. Go down to I-10.
Mantled. He vacuumed and cleaned the kitchen a bit, but he still kept one mold experiment outside for some reason. It was kind of relieving to not see so much trash lying around. We weren't allowed to toss even the most mundane trash like napkins and Taco Bell sauce packets, which there was an entire drawer of, so seeing all the cans and bottles disappear was super nice. Whenever we came over, people commented on how it's nice that we could hang out without being scared of accidentally touching trash or a trinket and having Lance freak out. We'd have a mostly weekly Magic the Gathering recurring night at the apartment where everyone would come drink, get high, and play Magic. Lance started attending again after he became mostly normal. It's interesting to see that him identifying.
I think we need to ban Magic. Okay? We need to ban the stupid card game Magic because clearly it's turning people into killers. I hate that fucking game, dude.
Identifying as trans
I hate it
came
so
while
much.
he was in his nesting phase, but he maintained it after it had ended. It does startle me a bit how basically all of Lance's friend group, who frequently visited Lance and Tyler's house, just kind of tolerated this going on for months. I have no idea how it's possible to put up
Look
with
at
a
those
situation
eyes, bro.
so clearly deranged for that long, but hey, different strokes for different folks. Now, it's this.
I mean, we just saw the picture of him before, I guess he transitioned. He was a little heavier. And his eyes look totally normal. Now look at his eyes. Now look at his eyes. You can see the mental illness in this guy now. That wasn't there before. So I wonder, was he just depressed and then he went to the doctor and the doctor gave him his antidepressants, which just made him fucking crazier. And then he started doing drugs and that made him crazier. And I mean, he might be on mushrooms right here. I don't know. But you can see it in this guy's eyes, man.
Next set of messages.
The
that I
eyes are the
find really
windows to the
interesting.
soul.
Between all of his turns while playing Magic, Lance would go hang out with Tyler, and we'd have to call him to the tables every time it was his turn. One of my gym buddies was the first to pick up on Tyler and Lance being really close. I was in denial for months because I thought Tyler was straight, and also I kind of did not want it to be true. Eventually, I kind of snapped out of it like the nth time I saw them asleep, cuddling on the couch.
Yeah, that is a little weird. Like your gaming buddies who you just want to hang out and game with, and then they start fucking each other. That's a little weird.
I kind of didn't think too much of it since Lance would get super cuddly every time he got drunk, which is how I think they got together, because I'm pretty sure Tyler was a virgin when he moved in. So probably when Lance was in the cuddly mood, probably something happened. But that's just my guess. This is where a lot of things start clicking together. Tyler, an introverted gamer who, as far as anyone could tell, had no prior relationships of any significance, spent 4 months living with his best friend, Lance, who apparently got overly cuddly with everyone.
Is this Lance again? Do you see how not insane he looks on these older pictures? And then all of a sudden he just gets full SSRI eyes, dude. I hope we find out. I hope we find out, but I don't know if we will, because I would love to see the chain of events that led to him looking crazy. Is it the doctor giving him drugs? Is it just him doing massive psychedelics? Is it just natural mental illness that he fell into? But we all know those eyes. We see them all the time when we see these leftist protests. 90% of them have those crazy fucking eyes.
While drunk, and simultaneously had the proclivity to drink too often. It's not surprising that this was the outcome of a touch-starved virgin gamer living in the same house as a touchy-feely, seemingly manic trans person. However, a while after Lance had mostly gone back to normal, things started to intensify again. I started noticing changes in Lance's political views as the presidential election got closer. He amped up the complaints of old people staring at him, which probably was because he dressed like a stoner and not because he was female presenting, because all he did in that department was grow out his hair and wear mascara every once in a while.
That's so funny the way they do that. Like, well, I'm a woman now, and it's like you still dress like a man, you still look like a man, and then you expect everybody to be like, "Oh, hi, ma'am." It's like you don't even look remotely like a woman, and then they get mad.
Also hated that the construction workers would misgender him, which I thought was weird since he said he was fine with any pronoun. Tyler wouldn't really get political until after the election. He'd sometimes just casually bring up the latest thing Trump had done and complain about what it'd do to the country, but in a very level-headed way. Before the election, Lance's friend group was the quirky LGBT group with a lot of mental illnesses. Not saying the two are linked, but that's how my friends knew them. They're the people who are in Lance's server for the most part. After the election, they became a lot more political, but not to an extremist level. By this point, I could safely say Lance and Tyler were some flavor of left-wing, while I'd become tired of politics and mostly apolitical, but never anything I thought was like dangerous. At some point, they told me about their relationship and were pretty open about it after that. It became very uncomfortable for me because while I don't think of myself as homophobic, seeing two dudes constantly make out was a bit much. Also, since Lance's room was always super messy, they would bang in Tyler's room, and I didn't like hearing it.
That's problematic. What do you mean? You don't like watching two dudes fucking rubbing tongues together, bro? What are you, fucking homophobic?
Cannot imagine how much it sucked to be in this guy's shoes. While this is a bit out of character for Tyler, who's been consistently described as reserved, it does match Lance's behavior of being overly transparent and letting other people, even people who randomly visited him, see into his intimate life to a point where it's concerning. It's also fitting that Lance's pre-existent paranoid behaviors were now manifesting in correlation to his gender,
he looks normal
as
there.
despite not being particularly female presenting or being concerned with being seen and treated as a woman, he still took issue with anyone who perceived him as a man. People who are paranoid often assume others look upon them negatively, no matter how asinine the reason may be. Clearly, Lance's mental state was deteriorating, and whether intentionally or not, he was dragging Tyler along with him. And this became increasingly transparent over time. Their mutual acquaintance continues. Lance started becoming more and more erratic again until, at the end of December, he just had another nuclear meltdown after having another argument. Also, a couple months before, we noticed Lance had been growing breasts and said that he'd been taking black market HRT, which I do not know what that entailed, but I think it was making him very...
Bro, okay, look. I don't know for sure, but I'm just going to assume again that he was on some sort of antidepressants. Okay? Weed, mushrooms, alcohol, Chinese fucking black market HRT. Maybe we do need to ban drugs, guys. Maybe we need to bring back the drug war, guys.
Erratic. So he basically shut down for like 2 weeks, not talking, just hitting his vapes in the living room in the dark. So here we have the mention of possibly one of the most concerning details about what kind of substances Lance was on at this point in time. Taking synthetic hormones of any kind, whether the kind and quantity your body already produces or not, is extremely dangerous and can cause pretty much every kind of health issue imaginable, including mental. Even if you're a guy and you take just a little bit of testosterone, you can suffer all kinds of side effects. So obviously, in Lance's case, the risks are much greater by default, and it's made exponentially more dangerous given the circumstances. This is someone who has proven himself to be delusional, chronically sleep deprived, and prone to overdoing substances. There is simply no chance he was mentally well enough to manage and administer dosages of any kind, let alone procure or produce untainted bathtub HRT. While studies on this stuff are hard to come by, there have been a few documented cases of people in similar situations to Lance. For example, there's one case of a person in their early 20s with a history of depression and psychosis who self-induced drug intoxication via HRT, which led to a worsening of their psychosis and all of their other psychiatric disorders.
Really?
Uncoincidentally, this is when Lance becomes more unhinged than ever before, as his peer continues to allege.
Don't say.
I thought he kind of started going back to normal after that because he started talking again, but I was so wrong. I had another magic night at the end of January, so even though Lance wasn't completely fine, I just kind of did it to test the waters. I should have guessed because the nest was starting to form again. He was watching Doctor Who in the living room, and so I thought if he was just doing that, he'd be fine. But people started to show up and talk before we started, and he just started yelling at us from the other room to shut up, which we thought was a joke since this was standard magic night procedure. He yelled again, and then we got quiet until enough people showed up to start a game. During the game, one of my more autistic friends started to bring up transgenders in sports. He literally couldn't get any further than those 2 words before Lance yelled at him to shut up from the other room. And to everyone's amazement, he tried to bring it up like 3 more times in rapid succession, being shouted down literally not even a second after he started his sentence every time. It became a very awkward game. It's pretty funny to think back on now. Bro could not take a hint. After that, more people showed up, and we started having 2 games going, and the mood mostly stabilized, and Lance just came in with sort of a loopy grin and a bottle of something. I'll summarize this part briefly since this person goes into a bit of detail about what happened, but Lance proceeded to throw this guy's extra rare magic cards around to try and get his attention.
Oh, no.
And afterwards, he went upstairs, at which point everyone started hearing loud thumping.
Not the magic cards, guys. Oh no.
Apparently, Lance had gone into a temper tantrum so intense that he was literally thrashing around on the floor, which hopefully was just a tantrum and not some kind of seizure, because at this point, Lance is really a prime candidate for that to happen. Their peer continues. After that, Lance went mental. I'd get to Lance in Tyler's place, and he'd be super wide-eyed with either a loopy grin or a rictus grin like the Joker, depending on his mood. The nest came back full force, and Lance started living downstairs full-time again. This is a picture of a kind of of cleaned up version. Imagine this type of mess, but denser and all over the living room and kitchen counters. He started playing on his DS and drawing stuff in, I think, Pitcho chat, and scribbling it all out while giggling with the wide-eyed Joker smile.
I had a friend like that. He wasn't mentally insane. They were just kind of white trash. Just like white trash hillbillies. And you would go over to the house, and we were friends. We hung out. I'd go over there and hang with him. And it was a little awkward, you know, but he would usually like keep at least a couple clean spaces to where you could sit down. And I remember doing acid one time, and like there were so many empty soda cans like everywhere that and the acid, it was like the one time I did acid where I didn't have a good trip. And I don't know if it was because the acid trip started coming in while I was at this nasty fucking place with like soda cans everywhere. And I remember just like having a hard time seeing anything because the aluminum soda cans were so shiny. It was like giving me a headache and I had to leave. Good dude, but yeah, just clean up, guys. You know, just clean up after yourself. It's all right. Every now and then it gets a little messy, and then you just, you know, get off your ass and just start throwing things away. You know, get out the vacuum. It's not hard, guys. It's not hard.
Either be doing this, or his experiments, or talking with ChatGPT day in and day out. He hardly ever slept. The experiments got scarier too. Like jugs of water with a whisk full of aluminum foil that had 2 copper wires coming out of them. The water was clear one day, and at some point, I think the wires got plugged into the outlet because the water turned brown and the aluminum foil was pretty burnt. He also started leaving little papers around the house that he had scribbled on while doing that giggling thing. It's at this point that our leaker here sent an extensive set of pictures he'd taken of the state of the apartment and the notes Lance left around. First is an image of their magic table, completely vandalized with garbage that mostly resembles electrical stuff, which is odd because Tyler was the one in an electrical apprenticeship program, not Lance. In the background, we can see what looks to be some kind of aquarium or big glass container with rocks in it, which may be the mold experiments mentioned in the messages. Underneath it is what looks to be a package for a rock tumbler, which makes sense given that Tyler occasionally did masonry with his dad. But it's when we move to what's actually on the table that things get increasingly bizarre. And we have isolated pictures of all of the particularly interesting items. I'm gonna say right now that I'm actually a specialist in literally nothing, so this is just gonna be me trying to interpret these to the best of my abilities, and the screenshots I'll be looking at will be made available in the description for those of you who want to take a look for yourself and see if you can extract some sense out of the madness of Lance's post-it notes. The first one we'll go over is this one, which contains a set of spiral-like scribbles that may be disconnected attempts at making the Glock logo, given the squared spiral G and the word lock near it. Right above this, there's also what looks to be the small phrase E equals T, and elsewhere on the note, I can also make out the words regent and temp.
Yeah, this looks like some schizophrenia type situation. I'm not an expert either, but yeah.
Though I have no idea if this is alluding to anything in particular. On the right side of the image, another post-it has the sentence, all of separate, underneath what looks to be the portmanteau, no linguals. This is very rough to make out, obviously, but bilingual means that someone knows 2 languages. Monolingual means that someone knows 1. Therefore, no lingual would mean someone who knows no languages, or someone who is nonverbal. The next set of scribbles is a bit more cohesive, although I'm using that word pretty loosely here at this point. Here, we can see stop looking for others at the top and Terraria Buggin Tear Ableist in the middle, which I think may be some wordplay with terrible and ableist.
Is this gonna lead to them being like, oh, okay, weed made this guy crazy, so we need, it's like, okay, was it weed or was it the SSRIs, the psychedelics, the fucking the black market HRT? You watch, this will be another example that fucking the Texas, what was it, Dan Patrick is going to pull out to be like, see, weed made him kill Charlie Kirk.
Bottom of this page, an illustrated version of the word sine wave is written above lose it at the tude, next to a picture of some bizarre looking animal. This at the tude bit to me is very reminiscent of how schizophrenic people will break words down and obsess with syllables, word morphology, and portmanteaus. There's another example of this in one of the post-it notes where he writes, I'm alone, obviously doing what I'm talking about here. On another page, we have Monsumus Sumptuous right at the top, followed by SFTU Piteous, which I assume is like shut the flip up. idiots, maybe. Further down the page, there's a rough sketch of America with the number 21.0 inside of it. And nearby, phrases like go to the store and small box go listen to act. A lot of this stuff reads like Lance is just writing his mundane thoughts or whatever he's seeing on his phone in the most cryptic.
Is he talking about the Act of the Apostles? He's talking about reading Acts? Maybe he was, diving into the Bible.
And insane way possible, but some of it does stand out to me as potentially meaningful or at least consistent. On a post-it note, he writes down TY and miss my BF, obviously in reference to Tyler. On another one, we have stop crying, stop stopping, and in one of the pages, we have the phrase full stop, very jagged at the bottom. Although this may be bull.
Yeah, somebody says Patsy shit. This isn't even the guy who killed Charlie Kirk. This is the boyfriend who it's looking like might have been the person who radicalized Tyler Robinson. And when I see Tyler Robinson, I see a guy who's probably susceptible to something like that because he doesn't seem all there. Tyler Robinson is looks like he's kind of fucking out of it. Every picture I see of him kind of looks like he's not that bright, but I could be wrong.
Or something else. On this page, there's something pretty interesting, as the words federated and fed-related are right next to what looks to be the word CIA. And further down...
there's the proof. There's the proof of a deep state conspiracy.
Drawing of 4 symbols that ever so slightly resemble what you'd see on a set of Zener cards. If you're not familiar with what these are, Zener or Zener cards were created in the early 20th century to test if people had extrasensory perception, and much later on, they were frequently reported as being used in gifted and talented education programs.
So are these dudes just sitting around trying to move things with their mind? It would make sense if you're that crazy. You're like, oh man, I have superpowers. Watch me move this cup with my mind.
There are a lot of conspiracy theories surrounding this topic, some of them being more credible than others, but they typically have to do with the CIA project MKUltra, and how GATE may be some kind of offshoot of it. I won't get into the merits of these theories, not only because Wendigoon should be the one to do that, but also because it doesn't really matter as much as the reason why people are drawn to this topic online in the first place. You see, if you check on Reddit, the majority of people who engage in discussions about the nature of GATE programs are people who were in GATE themselves, obviously, meaning they were, at some point, considered to be gifted. You may have already heard about this, but there's a sizable phenomenon of gifted kid burnout, where people who used to be overachievers in their childhood, usually in the academic sense, could no longer keep up as they got older, and so their life spiraled out of control. Part of this phenomenon is that
I often think of this one chick who was like, I went to a lot of schools, but in high school, I tried to settle down to one school. So in high school, I didn't move a lot. So in high school, there was one chick, I'm not going to say her name, but she was like the smartest kid. She had always had the best grades. Everybody was like, she's going to work for NASA. I wonder what happened to her. She didn't seem crazy though. She seemed well put together, like mentally. She was just like very serious about studies and shit. I wonder what happened to her. I hope she ended up at NASA.
When they can't get over their attachment to how they were treated
Shit,
when
she
they
might
were
be a
seen as
trans man
special,
now.
they come up with all sorts of extraneous reasons to justify their decline and convince themselves that they're still gifted in some way. Given that Lance is quite literally documented on video as a gifted kid, being an adept piano player from a young age, and his life definitely went downhill as he got older, it would make sense for Lance, in one of his weed, paranoia, alcohol, and hallucinogen real maxing binges, to stumble upon this stuff while doom scrolling and decide to scribble about it.
You know how people used to always say like, oh, what are you, a rocket scientist? She was like, if I remember right, she was like, yeah, I'm going to become a rocket scientist. I hope she made it. I hope she did. She was a sweet, she was nice, She like didn't talk much, but she was like always had the best grades. Top of the class.
This notion that Lance is still attached to
although it was a small school, so it wasn't really that big of a deal.
The idea he's special or somehow intellectually gifted is later corroborated by this anonymous peer. But even just examining his projects, Lance clearly thinks he's doing something here. Among the incoherent scribbles, there's hot glue and electrical wiring and batteries, which leads me to suspect he actually believed he was putting something together. And maybe some of these scribbles are, at least in his delusional mind, blueprints or rough sketches sketches. At least some of his drawings had symbols that resembled electrical circuit diagrams, some even written on books about electrical stuff like impedance phenomena, while others had mathematical symbols as if he was writing down equations. Although, of course, none of it actually makes any sense to me or probably you. I will say some of this stuff legitimately gets pretty scary. To think that this guy melted his own brain to the point where he was drawing this is horrifying. Besides the consistent appearance of circuit diagram-like straight lines leading to symbols and drawings and references to spirals and spiraling, there is one image.
Okay, spiraling, that might be a sign of insanity, but I remember I used to have terrible handwriting. I still do. You know, I have like a doctor's handwriting. It's ugly. But I remember this lady telling me to draw spirals because it would help my cursive. So she taught me like this technique to like just draw spirals and it would help my handwriting and my cursive. Maybe that's what he's doing. He's trying to improve his handwriting. Or maybe he's trying to access some other dimension. Who knows?
In particular, that really got my attention. On what looks to be 2 pieces of cardboard, Lance wrote, hormonal flux dash is way fluctuative, followed by definitely orchid denialism. If you don't know, orchid is actually the medical term for balls. So with the context here being him mentioning hormones and of course identifying as trans in the few months prior to Tyler's attack, orchid denialism could be a reference to him outright not acknowledging or recognizing his balls. I can't make any other conclusion besides that one, but as I said earlier, all of the images will be available for you to peruse. And although a lot of it is just random babble, I am hoping that by someone else other than I taking a look at this, there can be some information extracted from these images. The anonymous peer continues.
So, bro.
These scribbles look bad, but it's even worse when you saw his face when he was doodling it, combined with the giggling and how vigorously he would scribble. It was very scary.
It sounds like he was having like mental breaks.
The way he spoke was weird. It was a bunch of...
He might have been tripping his balls off too, stainless steel, because that's what happens. Like, I remember I had a great acid trip one time, and I was like discovering every secret of the universe. I was sitting there, oh, I have all the answers now, and it's all just fucking, you know, gibberish.
Words, but none of them made sense together, or sometimes it'd be in rhyme, or just sometimes he'd only smile and point at things. If I was religious, I would have called an exorcist. The smile was so scary, and he showed me what conversations...
I don't think it was DMT, P-Money. People don't draw on DMT like that. DMT is, yeah. I mean, maybe people do draw one wrong. I don't know. I don't typically know if... I've never done DMT, but from what I understand, people kind of are out of their body. Kind of just like gone, you know? But I don't know, maybe you could force yourself to draw. It's possible.
Andrew Wilson super chatted $5.
What's up, brother?
My dad is schizophrenic from an accident in the past. At his worst he draws weird SH1T like this. Dude has issues.
Yeah, there's a lot of people have said this is like textbook schizophrenic stuff. So, but it also could be drugs. It could be a mixture of drugs and schizophrenia.
He was having with ChatGPT. He told me he solved some equation backwards and showed me the ChatGPT text as proof. The chats were just paragraphs of random Greek and I think Roman symbols with numbers and random letters going on and on.
If it ain't bad enough, then you add fucking AI to the mix and then it feeds all of your crazy fucking delusions.
He'd somehow gotten it to respond in kind as well. He told me to start scrolling faster, and so I did. And he kept telling me faster until he was basically screaming at me to scroll faster, and the ChatGPT chats just went on like forever. I was sat there scrolling at max speed for at least like a minute or two, and by the bottom, it was still in the weird symbols. He started yelling at me that Nikola Tesla was abused by the people in his time, and that no one we knew was smart enough to solve that equation, including me, because he is way smarter than me. This was all in weird, broken up sentences too. Definitely added to the creepy factor. Tyler told me that Lance had basically been up for like 3 days straight talking to ChatGPT at the
Bro, now you add like not sleeping. Yeah. I don't know any of you guys, like I was somebody who would just, I don't know, I was naturally gifted at this. Like I could, when I was younger, not anymore. Now that I'm older, like I cannot do it. It kills me. But I would stay up fucking 24. I think the most I was like 32 hours. And yeah, once you're up at a certain point, you do start to like trip just from the lack of sleep. 3 days, I can't even imagine being up for 3 days. I think somewhere a little over a day, somewhere 24 to 32 hours is probably the most I've made it. And I had a disaster one time. One time I stayed up all night playing GTA. It was fucking San Andreas. This was 2004, so long time ago. Stayed up all night smoking weed, playing San Andreas. And the next day was Independence Day, July 4th. And I told my sister I would drive down to Corpus from San Antonio and hang out with her for spring break. And I did, without any sleep the night before, very little food. And then I got there and started drinking. And then I just passed the fuck out in the water. I was drinking energy drinks and Jim Beam. And then I went into the water in this little canoe and just passed out in the canoe. They had to come rescue me. And when the guy came to rescue me, he woke me up in the middle of my blackout and I started attacking him. And then he had to punch me to get me off of him. And then I finally woke up, with the first memory I have, because it was all a blackout. Like the only memory I have from going in the water. And then the next memory is waking up naked on the beach. Get your sleep, guys. Get your sleep, okay? With a bloody lip, by the way. Naked with a bloody lip. It was great. It was great. Great Independence Day.
That time. It's interesting that he
Don't
mentions he'd
be
get
like
an
me, guys.
exorcist if he was religious, because when I was going over
I remember, someone says San Andreas is a great game. I remember being in that canoe and just looking up at the sky and feeling, because I had been playing so much San Andreas, dude. It was such a good game back then. I remember looking up at the sky and being like, feeling like I was in the game. Like I could picture myself in the game. Get sleep, guys. Don't be like me.
Lance's Reddit posts, he talks about how once his family...
And the worst part is my dick looks so small because I had been in the cold water. Yeah. Just, get your sleep, okay?
threw him out of
Get
the
your
house,
sleep.
saying he was possessed by a demon. If this is what they were having to deal with, that becomes a lot more understandable. As far as the ChatGPT conversations in Latin and Greek, another common fixation of people who are schizophrenic is hermeneutics, the interpretation and analysis of biblical texts, often in their original language or as close to it as possible. There are huge online communities for esoteric and occult interpretations of the Bible revolving around sacred geometry or gematria, which, given Lance's repeated use of broken maths in his notes and scribbles, may have contributed to his delusions here. Again, this doesn't mean that this was actually happening, but it's a decent guess as to why those two specific languages and equations keep popping up in Lance's activities, despite him showing no interest in foreign or dead languages elsewhere. The messages continue. He'd sometimes just be sobbing in Tyler's arms, and Tyler would be rocking him back and forth. We all thought Tyler was a trooper for putting up with Lance in that state.
He might have drove Tyler fucking insane. He might have been there fucking just constantly just having meltdown after meltdown, and Tyler is like kind of, slow. I hate to say it, but when I see pictures of Tyler, I'm like, this dude seems slow. He looks like he's slow. I could be wrong. And then he's like, what's wrong, honey? Oh, it's Trump. It's Trump. And then eventually he just drives Tyler crazy to where he goes and kills Charlie Kirk or something. I don't know.
So the next image attached in these messages is one that I don't think I can show you guys on YouTube, but you will be able to check it for yourself in the description. But it's a used condom on the sink of the bathroom in the common area. We know this photo was taken in their apartment because the counter, sink, toilet, and other details match this photo of their sink taken from a Zillow listing. The same applies to another photo of the table in their living room, which once again matches the Zillow listing, as we can see that the window with the white blinds is in the same location. As nasty as this is to even take into consideration, it is worth noting that it is completely empty, which leads
socially
me to think
awkward.
that...
Yeah. Scaleworks RC says socially awkward but smart. Yeah, I'm not saying that he wasn't intelligent. He could have been super intelligent, but just like really socially awkward, not emotionally intelligent. Something just seems off when I see pictures of Tyler. And then when you see the picture of him talking to his mom about how he got into the university, and his mom's like, yay, and he's like, yay, copying his mom. It's like something seems off about him.
That even if Tyler was still engaging with Lance in this way, it was more out of pity or a sense of duty than anything else. The anonymous peer says, crazily enough, while Lance was like that, Tyler was still hitting it. When I told Lance I would be leaving the general area, it was crazy. He snapped back to reality for a
Dude, that Tyler was so fucking hard up, bro. That's sad. Like a lot of these kids, they're so fucking horny and no chicks will give him any attention. And this guy was so hard up. He's like, well, I guess I'll just fuck the guy that thinks he's a chick. I mean, that's better than nothing, right? That's crazy, bro.
And just thank me for all the good times we had hanging out throughout the years. After that, I think Lance had been brought back just a little bit, and he even let Tyler take him out of the house to start seeing a psychologist. It almost made me feel bad because, not gonna lie, I was starting to become really apathetic and not really care about what happened. Like, it was just so much energy.
I would have been out of there like day one. Day one, well, first of all, I'd never show up to play a lame-ass game like Magic. But if I was a lamer that played Magic, I would show up and I would be like, okay, I'm gonna block them on my. I would never want to. When you get, I guess maybe if I was a young kid, I'd be too stupid. But you know, as an older man, you know, like this is not something you need to be in your life.
To try and deal with Lance.
I don't have time for other people's mental illness. Unless you're in my family, then I will take care of you. But if you're just some fucking random friend, no, sorry, I don't need to deal with mental illness.
Tyler was a real trooper for dealing with him. Lance even calmed down enough for us to hold like 3 more Magic nights.
Look, guys, if you play Magic, have fun, play your Magic, but I'm still going to make fun of you for it, okay? Don't take it personal.
We all thought Lance would be okay because he had Tyler, who was basically his handler at this point, to take care of him. Eventually, my friend who lived across the street from their apartment let me know that Lance had gotten into an argument with his grandpa, who owned the apartment, and his grandpa had taken his car away. This I'm not sure about, but I suspect it put him into another one of these spirals. I imagine Lance was just alone with Tyler in the apartment, just driving Tyler crazy. I'd be hard-pressed to stay sane while living alone with Lance while he's like that. I joined a couple Discord calls with Tyler and Lance would say one thing and then be silent, and Tyler would just talk normally. Tyler even joined a call 2 weeks before the assassination and acted completely normal. All of this is really interesting to me because while we did have an inkling that neither Tyler nor Lance were in their right mind by the time the attack took place, it seems like the situation was that Tyler was being subjected to an incessant barrage of genuinely psychotic ramblings from a paranoid and deranged Lance, who had recently become significantly more political. As is customary for people with these kinds of delusions, they start fixating on prominent people, imagining they have some specific relationship to that person, usually that they're being stalked or otherwise directly antagonized by them. This is probably when the name of Charlie Kirk entered the mix, and while it was probably just one among many delusions Lance would probably forget about by the time his episode ended, it seems it seeped into Tyler's mind as the cause of Lance's problems. Obviously, there's the political context of it, with Lance being trans and Charlie being conservative and criticizing the trans community. But judging from the leaked messages between Lance and Tyler, it does seem Lance himself is taken aback and shocked that Tyler did what he did. If I were to guess, Tyler took some of the things Lance must have said while in a state of delusion to heart, while Lance had already forgotten about them a while later. Their peer concludes his message.
You mean their Trump derangement syndrome mixed in with all the mental illness? Like, clearly he was crashing out over Trump and Charlie Kirk, and you know, he was probably in a fucking crazed mental illness state where he's a victim, and it's like, who knows, man? I can't wait for this trial. I hope we get everything.
Messages by saying, after talking to another friend apparently right after he did the shooting, he joined a bunch of Discord calls asking if anyone had seen the news while breathing heavily. And literally the next day, he was in call just chatting with people while playing his puzzle games. And also for the record, Tyler 100% calls Lance my love when they are talking alone.
Yeah, people are like, there's no way he talks like that. Well, according to his friend, these fucking weird they're weird. So they talk weird. They're living in their own little world, their own little fucking, middle-aged, weird, romantic fucking... And there's no way he ever says, there's no way anybody talks like this. All the evidence that comes out that points to these people, everyone just always finds a way to deny it. Oh, there's no way that could happen. It's impossible. There's no way he said this. It's impossible. You mean it's impossible? Like you're saying there's no way people would ever talk like this, ever in the history of the... Okay. Oh, so it's impossible for a 30-6 to not just go right through? Impossible? That's what we're going to get to next. We're going to talk about that, and people probably not going to be happy with what I'm going to say. But I'm not saying I know what went down. I'm not saying that they aren't lying about a 30-6. What I am saying is when people tell you that it's impossible for a 30-6 to not have an exit wound, well, they're not talking reality, because it's entirely possible, and I will explain why. After this, we're almost done with this.
Hopefully this sheds some light on what it was like behind the scenes. With all of this context provided, I think it's beyond the shadow of a doubt that the last messages exchanged between Tyler and Lance are real. It also elucidates the nature of their relationship, as Lance was someone Tyler was mostly taking care of rather than having a normal relationship dynamic with. From the looks of it, it seems like Lance is someone who, at least at one point, was very self-aware and proactive as a person, being confident enough to argue with others over his worldview, while Tyler has always been quiet and stayed in the background of any setting he found himself in, including his relationship with Lance. Unfortunately, it turns out that he was simply less expressive of his thoughts. Now, the leaker also sends out that he was simply less expressive.
Look, when I see this, I see just there's something about this kid's face that, and I could be wrong, maybe my instincts on this are wrong, but just something says that he's not 100% normal, okay? I'm not saying he's not an intelligent guy. I'm not, and this is dumb because this is just my opinion, just based off of all the photos and hearing him talk, that there's something off about this kid.
Expressive of his thoughts. Now, the leaker also sent me their Discord logs, and this dynamic of Lance being the expressive one while Tyler played a subservient role is also reflected there, as Lance messaged the chats way more frequently and even had his own server. The logs I got are of 3 different servers that Tyler and Lance were parts of. Lance under the name Lanceolotl and Fluxolotl, and Tyler is the name Zealous_monkey.
I will admit though, this picture does not look like Lance, okay? So for people who want to say like, oh, you're just covering things up, I'll tell you, look, I'm not covering things up. I'm trying to actually figure things out. And to say it's impossible for a 30-06 to have not have an exit wound, well, that's just not true. There's plenty of cases of it. We're going to go over the data. You know, there's a little thing called Vietnam. There's a lot of data from Vietnam of people being shot, okay, with high-powered rifles, 30-06s. And guess what? They didn't all fucking have an exit wound, right? That data can be looked at, right? It's so we're gonna get into that next. But I will admit, this does not look like him. This looks like somebody else. And that's an AI generated photo. That's what they say, Skunky Brew. I don't understand why it's an AI generated photo. They have a camera right there. So you're telling me they took the footage from the camera, and then used AI to enhance it? Is the camera that bad? So yeah, if it's an AI enhanced photo, that explains it. But I am not going to pretend like this doesn't look like a totally different. Look, they look a little similar, but it like when I first saw it, I was like, this is a Hispanic guy. Pixelated. Yeah, I mean, I will admit the footage is a little off, but when I look at this, my instinct tells me this doesn't look like the same guy. But again, like for what you guys just said, it could still be. You know, it could be AI. When they upscaled it or whatever, they used AI and it filled in the details. Who knows? But yeah, this doesn't look like the same guy. He looks a lot skinnier. The body doesn't even look the same.
And bedbug inspector. These messages date all the way back to 2020, and although most of it is pretty irrelevant stuff and boring, it is kind of spooky.
But then again, it is from an angle where like the angles fuck with things, right? Like to me, like this angle, I look terrible. I look like a retard. This angle, I look pretty good. You know, I almost look like 2 different people from this angle and this angle, you know, if it wasn't for all the other identifying factors. So that might be part of it. It's just none of the pictures we have of them are from that angle. But I'll admit, it does look like it could be somebody else from that picture.
See that at some point, these guys were like completely normal, just sending memes to each other on Discord. Interestingly enough, Tyler frequently spoke of going fishing or making fishing trips that lasted for days with no cell service, where he would speak to no one. While this isn't really negative, it does differentiate Tyler from his peers. There's one kind of introvert who stays indoors and plays on the computer, and then there's go fishing in the middle of nowhere with no cell service for days kind of introvert. Still, at least early on, it's clear that the people in this server have no issue with offensive humor and don't necessarily swing politically in any given direction, although there are a few odd things that I have to note, even if they are just jokes. In mid-2020, someone else in the server tags Lance and says, "Nobody said gross when you said you wanted to bang your 2-year-old cousin, Lance." The context of this is that the same guy who sent this message said he wanted to bang snake girls, and Lance responded by saying gross. But honestly, this doesn't explain that much. Another interesting tidbit from these chats is when the topic of religion came up, prompting Lance to say, "Isn't Brigham Young the one with all the quotes about how black people are cursed and can't hold the priesthood until they get
It's just like a leftist to make everything about, isn't that guy racist? Didn't they do this racist thing one time? Yeah, that's a leftist thing.
cursed by God. For context, Brigham Young was an early leader of
racism. Therefore, the whole system needs to come down because they committed a racism in the past.
LDS Church. In response, the person with whom he was talking said that most religions start screwed up, implying that they would get better over time. To which Lance replied, and most still are, basically shutting it down. Long before the gender issue was something Lance was invested in, his earliest strong opinion is a clear anti-religious sentiment. Still, at no point here is there any sign that Lance's opinion is unquestioningly shared by the entire server, as most people here express pretty reasonable and mixed opinions. Around the same time that those messages about Brigham Young were sent, they were discussing politics and video games, but no one was really arguing as much as they were just expressing their views in a friendly manner. Eventually, Lance says auth-right lib-left unity, referring to the squares of the political compass of authoritarian right and liberal left. So clearly politics weren't taken too seriously by this friend group. A little while later, still in 2020, Tyler can be seen commenting on the presidential debate, saying that it was hilarious, but making no further comment. In September 2020, Lance says, Femboy Friday greater than Tomboy Tuesday, White Girl Wednesday isn't where it's at, followed by White King Wednesday. These seem to purely be jokes, as he showed no signs of identifying as a femboy at this point in time. As a matter of fact, when someone else sends a few messages saying, Femboy hypnosis is finally working, my nipples are so puffy, Jesus Christ, Lance responds with 2 long strings of question marks. Although this may 100% be irony on Lance's part, in November 2020, he sent Vote Jeb to this chat, referencing Jeb Bush's failed and often memed on 2016 presidential campaign. Interestingly enough, at least back in 2020, Tyler seems to be the one who was more politicized from the Discord messages. At one point, he went as far as to suggest that freedom of speech should be amended so that vaccine and COVID skepticism was not protected by it and could get you punishment by the government.
Okay, that's unless you lived in a box in 2020, that tells you pretty much where he was on the political spectrum. He was a fuck your freedom, get your vax. That tells you a lot.
Also, I've repeatedly seen people claim that Tyler was a furry, but in these chats, he seems to deny it, as when another user says he is one, he replies by saying, I told someone I wasn't gonna watch their anime one time and get called a goddamn furry. This country is going downhill. Earlier on, even Lance was open to cracking some more edgy jokes, like me proving that being black is a myth and calling other people libtards. And I'm under the impression that he engaged with lolcow and internet drama culture to some extent. The reason why is because there's a good few messages of him talking to someone else about Terry Davis, where he calls Terry a weird nerd, but acknowledges that he has a sad story, while expressing no hang-ups about someone else in the server, echoing Terry's use of the N-word to describe CIA agents. There's also a good few messages in which Lance can be seen discussing Chris Chan and his current girlfriend, Flutter, where Lance says Christorians must be praising the sun, with one odd message comparing someone's looks to janky, which could be in reference to someone else in the server, but most likely is in reference to Isabella Janky, one of Chris Chan's most infamous tormentors and A-logs. As of 2022, Lance sent a few messages complaining about H3H3, saying this, can't stand the podcast or new content. His old videos are still good. I don't understand how he was able to go from genuinely—
It's just their typical viewers. I mean, this is every YouTube viewer ever. Like, oh, I used to like their content. I don't like it anymore. We all have like 10 channels we feel that way about. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, like this just shows that they were just regular fucking online people absorbing online content.
Goofy and enjoyable content to purely bad political takes and one of the most boring podcasts I've listened to. Half the time, he won't even let guests talk. He just interrupts them to make a bad joke and then doesn't let them finish. Another interesting token of Lance talking about the kind of content he interacted with online is his positive review of Wendigoon's content, which seems to come from Isaiah's videos on FNAF lore based on other messages sent by Lance.
Wendigoon's, I saw like a video of his talking about what was he talking about? Some like his favorite gospel or something like that, or his favorite line in the gospel. I watched a little bit of it. He seems like he's pretty hardcore Christian.
To the server. To put it simply, up until some point in 2020,
look, he looks a little. This might have been. He's got a little bit of SRIs here, but not too much.
For, like I already suspected in my first video, Lance was mostly normal and didn't take much of anything very seriously. Even when his doom scroll nest phase began, he was still capable of making light of what he was up to, saying the following: "I have begun only sleeping on the couch, cooler downstairs, and less room to move, or I fall off/get eaten." Tyler, on the other hand, seldom engaged in the same degree of joke.
Look, I'm telling you, dude, he's got that look, man. He's got that look where you're like, yeah. He's got the look of the kid you could convince to do something really stupid. That's what he's got. He's got the look of the naive, dumb kid who's probably like a genius in math or something, but like socially he's like retarded. And you can convince him to do something really stupid so you can have a laugh. You'd be like, yeah, go touch that thing. You know, like he's someone you could take to like an electric fence and be like, touch the fence. It's not going to hurt you. It's actually, he just seems like he'd be easy to mislead to do something stupid.
As Lance did. The most I could find on him suggesting an interest in
I'll put it this way. If I was to be in school and I was like, oh, we need some dumb kid to convince him to go start a fight with the bully or whatever so we can watch someone get their ass kicked, and I looked at all of them, he'd be the one I'd go to. I'd be like, oh, he's it. He's the dumb kid. We can convince him. Now, look, you can say, well, I'm just judging by how he looks, but thousands upon thousands of years of human evolution have taught me to try to recognize crazy fucking people. So there's an instinct we have to recognize just by facial expressions when people are crazy or not. Is it always right? Is it always correct? No. But evolution gave us that ability for a reason.
Online content is a GIF that he posted of Gypsy Crusader. When he did send text messages to
Beto
the server's
O'Rourke's got a
chat,
similar
it was
look.
usually to give people a small window into his private life. In 2020, there was some conversation between him and other users talking about a YouTube channel he once had, which contained a tour of his bedroom. Unfortunately, as far as I know, and according to the messages Tyler sent here, this video and the entire channel have become lost media. In 2021, he said that his brother had accidentally discharged a firearm and shot a hole in the wall, with no further comments from Tyler. In 2023, it seems he became a bit more talkative, and he shared a few more times about his electrical apprenticeship program and what kinds of things he had to do in it. But any apparent character development for Tyler came to a screeching halt in late 2023 to 2024, when Tyler's messages became noticeably more politicized, some of them in reference to war in the Middle East, and some of them joking about the assassination attempt on Trump, saying snowflake liberals can't shoot straight because they too busy being gay. While he was definitely still reading the room, so to speak, and not breaking into a rant, he clearly became more agitated about these things. Curiously, another member of the group chat was at a campus of all places when a shooting took place, and Lance responded with concern. All of a sudden, this agitation too gave way to something else, mostly silence. As Lance became increasingly present in servers and started one of his own, the femboy server, as he put it, right around the time they started dating, Tyler became increasingly inactive, even less expressive than he was initially. Most of the information from this time period comes from Lance, who notified the group chat when he was going on a date with Tyler or watching TV shows with him. Speaking of TV shows, it's quite possible that the show they were watching was Beastars, the big furry anime show, because Lance discussed it in the server on a few occasions. Now, from late 2024 to early 2025, some of Lance's messages further corroborate the claims made by his and Tyler's anonymous peer. First off, he says that he's been chronically sleeping from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m., and that it's been wreaking havoc on his life. Then, we have a ton of messages in his own server where he's talking to ChatGPT, although I'm sure this is only a fraction of the full extent of his communications with it. Lastly, we have Lance inviting everyone in his server to attend the anti-Trump No Kings protest. Over the previous half a decade worth of Discord messages, nothing from Lance comes even close to as clear of a political expression as this. As far as Tyler's presence in Lance's server,
well, to me, the Tyler, him talking about getting rid of free speech because the people that are anti-vaccine, I mean, that tells you everything you need to know. That one really fell along political lines. I don't think you could find one person who was a pro-Trump supporter who was like, yeah, we need to shut these people up who keep talking about vaccines and causing vaccine skepticism. Yeah, that's definitely somebody on the left.
One of the last messages I was able to find of his was sent in August, where he simply says, I am.
And sometimes people, like on Discord, if you know you're on a Discord with a bunch of, I'm guessing these are like a lot of Mormons, like local Mormons, and you know they're not all on your side, you're not going to come out and like speak your politics, you know, because you know you're in a space where everybody's got different politics. So Just because they weren't openly talking about how crazy leftists they were on Discord doesn't mean they weren't crazy leftists.
I'm very ill. Within a month of this message, the tragic day of September 10th comes around, and the following day, Tyler sends his confession message to their old friend group server. It's interesting to me that he sent it in this server and not to Lance's new server, because I'm not sure why that is. It could just be that he was less familiar with the people there, but based on the kind of messages sent there, which we're gonna go over later, it could be that he wanted to avoid having anyone say something that resembled support for his actions. In the original group chat, one of the most prominent users replied, saying this: "Hey everyone, if you haven't seen the news yet, Tyler's post above is true. He was taken into custody earlier today for the shooting of Charlie Kirk. Regardless of the horrible actions that took place, we must take this moment to remember that God is a living and loving God who loves all his children. God calls sinners to be his saints, and I ask that you all take a quiet moment to pray for Tyler and his repentance." While Charlie Kirk's politics were...
So as you can see, this Discord was not filled with a bunch of lefties, so they weren't fucking... They were like diving a little bit into their politics, but mostly probably trying to avoid it so, you know, they wouldn't fuck up the little friend group they had.
not acceptable.
The dude that wrote that message definitely wasn't a leftist, unless he was a rare, you know, Christian leftist. They exist.
To some, I ask that we all say a prayer for him and his family during these confusing times. Love you all. God bless. Given the clearly religious nature of this post, it's safe to say that this particular Discord server was pretty varied in what kind of people were in it, especially since it mostly went quiet after the attack on Charlie Kirk. Over on Lance's server, Lance's final message there was from a day after the shooting, tagging a user that, as of the archiving of the messages, was no longer in the server. After Tyler's crime took place, many of the users complained about the harassment and unwanted attention from journalists and random people online digging up everybody Lance was connected to.
That kind of sucks. I get that. You know, you just happen to be, you know, like somebody who, like, their brother does some horrible shit and you have nothing to do with it other than that's your brother, and then now you have that stain on you for the rest of your life. I don't wish that on anybody. But that's what, you know, you shouldn't be a fucking piece of shit, because if you're a piece of shit, it doesn't just ruin your life, it ruins everybody's life that's associated with you.
A perfectly reasonable reaction, especially since, as far as I can tell, most of them just occasionally played video games with Lance, so their connection to Tyler was tenuous at best, even if they shared a Discord server. But there are a few things I want to go over that I didn't mention in my previous video, such as the fact that Tyler had a few blurbs of unusual online presence that I hadn't seen. For example, he had a DeviantArt under his older handle, Crafton247, where he lists himself as they/them. It's not possible for this account to belong to someone else that created it after the assassination, as it was created 2 years ago. Then we have another account with the same exact handle, this time on Fur Affinity, but there doesn't seem to be any significant activity on it, just like on DeviantArt. And for those of you who don't know, Fur Affinity is like the furry website. It's the #1 furry website, okay? Now there's also two...
So yeah, he was a fucking dirty furry. Maybe that's what he liked about fucking Lance, you know? Because, I don't know, maybe he was actually gay, but he didn't. I don't know, man. These furries, bro, they need to be on all furries need to be put on a watch list. Okay, I don't care. Look, you want to be a furry, great, but you need to be on a watch list. We need to know who you are. Maybe have your movement tracked, okay?
Reddit accounts under the names Crafton247 and Crafton248, neither of which contain any significant info. There's one post on each account, both of some pretty mundane content and from years ago, long before he was dating Lance and became more politicized. Now lastly, there are the Steam accounts of both Tyler and Lance. Tyler was clearly much more active on Steam, being level 50 on the platform. It is interesting that Tyler once set his name on there as Donald Trump, but besides that, nothing of note really. Part of why there's very little to say is that Tyler clearly set most of his settings to more private options, which again is pretty reflective.
Doesn't something seem off here? Like if this kid was like in special ed and he was like riding the short bus every day, you wouldn't be like, oh, that guy looks normal. You'd be like, oh yeah, makes sense. Makes sense.
of the kind of guy he was. Lance, on the other hand, had pretty much every facet of his profile completely public, where we can see that the last game he played was 2 days after Charlie's death, and his profile has been completely inactive since then. Given the testimony from Tyler and Lance's friend, even people who knew them in real life and frequented their living space only ever caught glimpses of the exact nature of their relationship. Based on the last few months prior to Charlie Kirk's assassination, as far as I understand, they weren't really having anyone over, and their output of messages to their online friends also significantly decreased. I have done my best to contact Lance about all of these claims and get his side of what happened, but he has not responded to 3 different requests for comment.
Yeah, so that's one of the things people keep saying is that Lance has basically disappeared. He hasn't been to his apartment. Like he's gone off the grid or something. Nobody knows where he's at, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know how true that is, but most people in a situation, if they're close to this, and, you might have radicalized the dude who did this. Yeah, most people are going to disappear because they don't want attention anymore. They want to go off, disappear until, things calm down. But yeah, that was, pretty interesting, man. So we seem to know a lot about these people. Now, we'll get into the 30-06 stuff, okay? First of all, as I've done research about it, and yes, I did use AI to do research because AI is good for sourcing. If you have a question and you don't want to have to search the entire internet to find it, AI can find it really quick. Okay. Martin Luther King, I brought that up. Martin Luther King was murdered with a 30-06. Allegedly, people don't believe anything, right? And it did not have an exit wound. It hit him in the face, the chin, did the same thing, had a downward trajectory, and they found it was shattered inside his body, right? Now, if you ask Grok, of course, people are going to deny this because Grok's a liar, right? This is all lies. This is the devil lying to me, right? So there's a lot of real world examples of this happening, okay? Historical military cases, Vietnam era 30-06 wounds. During Vietnam, the 30-06 was used in M1 Garand and M1903 rifles, with wound profiles showing frequent retention due to bone interaction. Military ballistic research, e.g. U.S. Army Wound Ballistics Lab, noted that full metal jacket bullets often yaw after hitting ribs or spine, dumping energy without full penetration, mirroring Kirk's reported cervical hit. Okay, I told you about the MLK assassination, 1968. James Earl Ray used a 30-06. According to the, people don't believe this, so they're going to say, well, obviously that wasn't the gun that was used. It was a different gun, blah, blah, But, according to the official version of events, James Earl Ray used a 30-06 Remington Model 760 Game Master. And when I say odd, I'm saying ot, not odd. So don't try to say like I'm one of these idiots that doesn't understand that ot means 0, okay? 30-06, 30-06. Remington Model 760 Game Master. The bullet struck MLK's right jaw, neck, fragmented on cervical vertebrae. And by the way, I guess you're going to assume that the doctor who did the autopsy and all that is just lying about all this, right? Fragmented, because that's always what it is. Everybody's lying. When their story goes against you, what the story you wanted to be, they're just lying. They're paid for. They're part of the conspiracy. It fragmented on cervical vertebrae, severed major vessels, spinal cord, and lodged internally. No exit wound. This caused rapid exsanguination. That's a hard one. Similar to Kirk's arterial bleed and collapse. Vietnam combat data. U.S. Army studies on 30-06 FMJ Full Metal Jacket reported 25 to 35% retention in torso neck wounds from bone deflection. Now, I have a friend of mine. He just says, "There's no way. Have you ever shot a deer? I murder deer all the time. This could never happen." And I'm like, it's either possible or impossible. I would much rather hear you say it's unlikely. Yes, it's unlikely. Statistically, it's more likely that there's going to be an exit wound. But for you to say it's impossible, there's no way you could ever do that, is lying, because it's not impossible. And we've had, plenty of deaths from 30-06. So there's a lot of data to go through to go, okay, you're telling me this is impossible, but yet the studies they did in Vietnam, 25 to 35% of the time, there was no exit wound when it hit the torso neck wounds from bone deflection. We'll read this again. U.S. Army studies on 30-06 Full Metal Jacket reported 25 to 35% retention in torso neck wounds from bone deflection, clavicle or C-spine. Bullets traveled 8 to 14 inches before stopping, often in soft tissue, post yaw. One declassified report, non-deforming pointed bullets like 30-06 yaw, 180 degree in gelatin, exiting base forward but lodging if bone is struck. Okay, and then there's all these other cases. Like, it's just, you know, I'll get it because all these people are experts because they hunted, right? Oh, this would never happen. I've shot a 30-06. You could see that it's fucking gigantic hole. Blah, 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 blah. Dude, I wouldn't recommend this, but go watch the back 4 o'clock, like 4 or 5 o'clock camera footage of Charlie Kirk getting shot, and you can literally see his back balloon out as his body takes that bullet just rips through, and you can see his back deform. There's not an exit wound, but there's a fucking where his body is absorbing that bullet. And yeah, it probably, I think the last I heard is like they found the bullet, but we need the details. Did it fragment? Because what I'm assuming is it probably fragmented. It probably broke up into pieces. Hunting and ballistic gel recreation. Hunters often recover 30-06 bullets intact from deer necks and shoulders, where the short tissue path plus bone causes yaw/fragmentation. Gel test, 10% ordnance, gelatin simulating tissue. Post Kirk's death replicated this. Full Metal Jacket at 150 yards, lodged after 10 to 12 inches in neck, simulating setups with vertebrae inserts. Common reports of 30-06 soft points entering rib/neck, fragmenting on spine and lodging under hide. No exit in 15 to 25% of angled shots. So that's angled shots like Kirk's was. 15 to 20%, 25%, no exit. Okay. So best case scenario 1 in 4, worst case scenario 1 in 5. Not impossible. So when someone tries to tell you this is impossible, they're using stupid language to manipulate you. Okay? Because it's clearly not impossible. Anyway. So yeah. I think the Vietnam one is probably the biggest data point to be like, no, I mean, we have all of this evidence from Vietnam of people being shot with 30-06 in that same region and not having an exit wound. Bullets do strange things, guys. Okay? But yeah. I'm getting sick of this. It's just like the conspiracy over the Charlie Kirk stuff. It's like, dude, it's possible. Yes, it's possible there's a conspiracy. It's possible somebody was funding these kids and used these kids. Right? It's all possible. But a lot of people are just they're looking for views, man. That's what it is. There's no views in what I'm doing right here. But if I was to title my video, Definite Conspiracy, New Evidence Exposed, Third Shooter in the Charlie Kirk, I'd have 1 million views. Or I don't know, I'd have a lot of views. That's why people are fucking running with every wild conspiracy they can with this shit. And the reality is we just don't know because they're not telling us. You know, the FBI, the FBI did a little investigation to see, if there was like, because I think the way it would have worked is if the FBI found like a conspiracy and it was like, a lot of people involved, then the FBI probably would have taken over. But the FBI did their investigation. They found there was no evidence of a conspiracy. So the state's probably taking it over from there. And they don't want to fucking spoil the case. They don't want to also, you have to like not prejudice the jury. So you got to kind of keep all your evidence, tight to the chest until it's time in court. So that's what I'm waiting for. And this could be a conspiracy. There could be so much there. But as of right now, I'm not throwing out the possibility that what we have is actually what happened. That this fucking guy, Tyler Robinson, walked up on a roof, shot a fucking dude. There are questions that, like I said, like that picture, it doesn't really look like him. It is a little weird. Like, there's so many photos of him. You don't see the gun. Like, where's the gun? Like, there are questions. There are questions that make me go, But at the end of the day, we don't know. It's all just fucking speculation. We'll see. Hopefully they're sitting on a pile of evidence so that they can be like, no doubt when that comes out. But we'll see. We'll see. Thank you guys. This has been a 3-hour episode. I didn't know it was going to take that long. But it's been fun. Thank you guys. I appreciate the support. How's everybody doing? You guys enjoy the episode? Christy C, I'm waiting for the evidence. So am I, Christy C. I'm hoping. Oh, actually, there is a video here. I think they had a court case today. Let's see. Yeah, some sort of court hearing. Let's see a little bit of this. I kind of scrolled through it, but I didn't really watch it. Let's see. We'll watch this real quick. But yeah, since it's a state case, we should be getting, cameras in the courtroom. We should be getting cameras in the courtroom. Let's fast forward this. Get to where they come in.
Your Honor, Christopher Ballard and Chad Grunander on behalf of the state.
There's a short ruling for the rules.
Richard Novak and Stacy Visser on behalf of Mr. Robinson.
Thank you. Welcome to both prosecution and defense. And Mr. Robinson, I understand, is appearing by WebEx. Mr. Robinson, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
There he is. There's the guy. Someone says, I wonder if they'll apologize when the trial starts and the evidence comes out. I don't know, Skunky Brew, because they might be right to be questioning right now. I don't know. The evidence might come out and it might be all fucked and be weird and be like, it might get me questioning. But no, if they are wrong, they won't apologize, Skunky Brew. They will refuse to believe it. And no matter how much evidence there is, the conspiracies, the narratives, the speculation will continue because that's where the money is. There's no money in apologizing and going, hey, I was wrong. Unless it's very blatant. Unless it's like everybody starts laughing at them and they lose their audience. Like other than that, they're going to continue just to speculate and conspiratize. Because that's where the money is, bro.
Thank you. Good afternoon to you all. We're here on the Tyler James Robinson motion to appear in civilian clothing and without physical restraints at all pretrial hearings. Because of some of the arguments involved in court security protocols, the court held a closed hearing on October 24th, 2025. During that hearing, the parties addressed several related matters. The first.
Christy C, basically a housekeeping with lawyers. Is there anything worth watching this, Christy C? Because I didn't watch it. I don't know. I heard that Tyler spoke, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I want to hear what this fucking loser sounds like. Yeah, okay. Well, I'm here 3 hours anyway. You guys here, I'll post this in here if you guys want to go watch it. Because I got to get out of here. I got to throw some shrimp in the oven. I got to make me some fucking shrimp, bro. I love me some shrimp. Makes you liable if you apologize? Yeah, well, there's that too, right? There's that too, you know? But yeah, it's also not good to apologize because, you know, people want their YouTubers to be bigger than life and they don't make mistakes. And, you know, you can't admit that you're not perfect and don't have all the answers. You know, I mean, a lot of them, they really buy into the bullshit, dude. You know, they want people that are larger than life. But then you just, you know, you buy into a bunch of bullshit because nobody's larger than life. And nobody's perfect either. We're all inferior. Well, not inferior, but we're all not perfect. All right. All right, guys. Thank you. Thank you for the support. Thank you for the super chats, the thumbs up. We got to 93, almost at 100. On the way out, if you enjoyed the show, smash the thumbs up. And I'll play the members shout out. I'll play the member shout out for everybody that's all the members. This is not everybody. There's some people that became members this month that are not in this, but I'll try to get you in the next month's shout out. But I'll play that, and then then we'll be out of here, guys. Have a good night, guys. We'll see you tomorrow. It's going to take me a second to pull up this song because I don't have it pulled up. Remember song coming? But I got to pull it up. I don't have my fucking website open. Here, we'll play this for now.
Wants to pee or grab a little protein, whatever the case may be. Ping will be right back, that's a guarantee. We're having technical difficulties. We're having technical difficulties. We're having
Some of these didn't come out as good as the ones the last month, the one I did in September. But you know, it's going to have to do.
Hello.
All right, guys.
Hello,
Omega. Edward Hijack. Eco. Christopher Fitzgerald. Alex Dunn. Hectic. Mike Bell. Bo. Bob. Becca. P-Money. Alex Steiner. Holden Donsock. Hypnaudio Stream. Zitzi. Samuel Yo. Joel D. Captain Butter 20 Toe. Sam B.
Mike checks, Big Flair, Jim Hodge, Bane Bear, Skunkin' Brew, Ron Air, Mr. Bubbles, Hick and Way, Divine Dream, Wilbur Krinkhoff, They Aren't Human, Ailey Whaley, Witkowski's Fishing Sickness, Airworks, RC, Matthew the Tide, Midwest Request, Granola Grin, Owen Nels Ones, to Eda Beck's, Audacity, Unifrenated, Jams, Junkie Alley, and Christoforos Lagios, K. Sadie, Dwani Alley, and Andrew Johnson, Zadafar, Buster Honey, and Tyrone Johnson, Weezable, Glenn Halls, Brett, Private Eye, Mine, I.E., Thigh, Flair, Dave, Alexander G, Summerando, Brejo Activity, Jim Burkett, Cameron, No Questions Asked, Brandon, Flowbot TV, Cersei, Sid, Occasion Last, Anunnaki Crown, I'm not your buddy guy, Axel Mateo, the Full Metal Painter, TJP, Bird Feeder in the Window, Amazing Disgrace, Martin Bargar, Raid Comments, 110, Moosey Foracle, for that rabbit style with it, Brandon L, 12 Pac, Emmy Make Cole, Tommy Tattoo, Corn Pop, 82, High Design, Dope Bennett, David Carley on Kev Dope, SP Garrett, Anthony Spacco, 11, Skin Doggy Dog, ST, Happy Days, Gully Sword, Andowichis, Kane Sword, Andrew Wilson, Skankin' 20, Burke, Dr. Shrek, JC88, Under Ben Stephens, Danny Mystery Zone, El Jefe, Do Edler, Wilford Brimley, Independent Courier, Rowan Costa, Aaron Decker, Max Hancher, Dave Cooley, Annie Gunther's Guide, Red Hawk 20, Uriah, P Sauce, Oliver Jason, Coach C, Be Unstoppable for Life, Willie Will, Arnold Nicotina, Dean Jason, Bobcat, Wolfenstein, Quantum La Immortal Tommy, Michael Sink, Jesus Christ, Donuts, Brenda Ray 6-1, Denny McCusker, Wyatt Martin, Mike Dogan, No Nicks, The Crab 7-8, Dirty O Dingo, San Juan, Michael Opresto, Chris DeLissa, Tony, this project is done, Jacob Sotto, The Art of Guitar, Andy's Randa and his Adra Dagger, Sandwich.
Please subscribe and hit the like and ring that bell if you want notified. Here's some other videos to watch that you might like or you might not. Have a great day, my internet friend. I hope I'll see you once again. Please subscribe and hit the like and ring that bell if you want notified. Have a great day, my internet friend. I hope I'll see you once again. Please subscribe and hit the like and ring that bell if you want notified.